Hello everyone. Hello, welcome. Good to see you. Oh, that's so nice to hear. Yes, good evening to all of you. Good to see you. Oh, we've got some fun stuff for tonight. Very exciting. Hopefully, hopefully it'll be exciting for everyone. Oh my goodness.
Exciting for everyone.
Hold on, I'm getting some feedback. Just one second. Now, as I get everything set up here, at this point, yeah, we'll see. As I'm getting everything set up, just one moment. I may, this may pop off for a second, but we'll just see. Nope, there we go. Okay, we're set. Have I read the letter yet? I haven't. Actually, I meant to pull that up real quick. So why don't I do that right now while I'm getting everybody set up in here? Yeah, I heard there was a letter out there. Let me see here. Ooh, all right. Hold on, let me see. Oh my goodness. Ooh, Miss Fawny and her letter. Ooh, well then. That's interesting. Let me see if I'll just print that out real quick. See what happens. Oh, yes. Hello, welcome everyone. Yes, the lemonade. Oh, good evening, Sue. Good to see you. Yeah, let me go and grab the letter real quick so I can take a peek at it. I'll be right back. Okay, here we go. Yeah, I just printed it out. I may take a look at it here shortly. Hello from Kansas. Oh, hello. Welcome. Yes. And Kim, welcome. Good to see everybody. Good to see everyone tonight. Yeah, she lit into him. Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness. Oh, Oregon. Hello, Fort Knox. Wow, all over the place. Ooh, Fulton County. Good to see you, April. Good to see you. How much content surrounds this whole trial? True. Very true. Yes, so tonight I actually wanted to go through something just a little bit different. I pulled the indictment that came down out of Cop City, the indictment out of Georgia. It's another RICO indictment, and I wanted to kind of go through it. There's a lot of interesting pieces of it. So, watching from Australia, welcome. Oh, California. Yes. Yeah, she put a boop on it. That's hilarious. Oh, we love that. San Diego. Wonderful. Oh, it's so good to see everybody. Oh, Philly. Very nice. But yeah, so I was able to pull this. Now, we've been talking so much about the RICO indictment and specifically about a particular RICO one. And I was able to kind of look up this other one that has just recently been filed by the grand jury. And it was filed August 29th. And I thought it was really interesting. So I thought maybe we could go through it. Yeah, there's a lot of really big questions about that. So, yeah, I think it's really worth the time to kind of go through it. Hi from Cincinnati. Yes, hello. Welcome. Good to see you. Yes. This indictment that I wanted to go through tonight are the protesters that were involved in the piece of land that they were making into a law enforcement facility in Georgia. So they have been officially indicted for their actions, and they've been indicted under a RICO. It's a listing of allegations. It's a finding of probable cause, and a listing. So we don't have, proof beyond a reasonable doubt here. This is only a finding of probable cause. But 61 people, right? Yeah, Cop City, yes, in Georgia. This indictment is a little bit different. It's got a few pieces to it that are a bit unusual. I've spent a lot of time with the other RICO indictment. So to have this particular indictment set out the way that it's been set out is a bit unique. So I'm thinking everyone will be able to kind of catch me with that as well. So this one is Fulton County. It was filed in Fulton County again. So that's how that one was set up. All the names are interesting. They are, yes. Hold on here. I need to check a couple of things real quick. So if you'll just give me one moment. Just trying to get everything sorted out. Okay, just making sure I've got everything set. Great. Okay, so tonight we will be going through the indictment, the RICO indictment for Cop City. These were the protesters who have been indicted by a grand jury, and the charge has been the RICO charge. So they charged a group of protesters under the RICO statute there in Georgia. So I think that will be very interesting. No, I'm not an attorney for the state of Georgia. No, I am in the Central Time Zone. Yeah, there's a lot of things that I think are curious here that aren't particularly typical in an indictment. So I think we'll go through that. I think I would be very interested in hearing everyone's kind of perspective on it. So yes, against the protesters. There are 61 defendants, 61 protesters, and they have charged them with a RICO violation, along with a domestic terrorism and money laundering. Now, as we go through this, you'll see the money laundering counts. Each one of them is less than $70, but they've been charged as separate counts. So it's a really interesting indictment. I wanted to take some time and kind of see. No, this was the AG's office. This was not Fani. She did not file this. Yes, the RICO charge. We have the racketeering. Let me just pull up the code section for you here. Let's see. The racketeer influenced and corrupt organizations. This is a specific code section for the state of Georgia. So they have charged these protesters under the RICO statute in Georgia. And they were saying the protesters had a common enterprise that they were trying to do. And they used multiple different racketeering methods of achieving that goal. $70, nothing was larger than $70. Let me just kind of skip to that part. This is what there are a lot of things actually that are really quite concerning in this indictment, so that are quite a bit different than the other indictments we've looked at. But I would say one of the things that's most concerning is that we have these charges for money laundering, right? So, and I'll go into that, but the amount is $61.21, $27.62. Like each one of these money laundering charges, I guess this one is $250, but they're pretty low, but they are still charged with these different money laundering amounts. So it kind of is, it makes you wonder, like, I'm not sure exactly what's going on here. So I'm hoping that once we go through the indictment a little bit, it'll explain it a little bit more. Subscribing to pay for your ink. Well, I'm wondering, was that considered restitution? We'll kind of get into that, Egypt. I'm not sure. At this point, they're claiming that was the money that was specifically laundered. And so that's what led to the charge. But we'll kind of go through it. I'll walk everybody through the acts. There's quite a few acts in here, and we'll kind of talk about whether or not, do we have a RICO situation or do we not? So yes, Cozy, so we had a bunch of protesters. They went down to Georgia. Georgia was making a place for law enforcement and kind of a bigger compound. And so there were protests that were going on, and 61 people were charged because of their actions during the protest. And then they were, a grand jury just came down and indicted them under the RICO statute. So it's a really interesting situation here. I'm just trying to make sure all of my settings are okay here for everyone before I get started too much. So it's a fascinating case because the AG's office is the one that filed it. So this is not Miss Fani's office. This is the AG's office. And there's a lot of questions about whether or not this kind of political protest or speech, what kind of an issue we're dealing with. So, it's a lot of good questions. So I thought we could go through it and look and see what we think about the evidence that they're putting out. Yes. Who runs it looks like, I'm not even sure what his name is. I have forgotten his name. So let me see if I can pull his name up here. Let's see. AG, Attorney General's office. So rather than the district attorney, this is the Attorney General for the state. It's Christopher Carr is his name here. So he is the one that has brought it. Now again, this is an indictment against the protesters that were involved in it. So this indictment just came down, but again, we're out of Fulton County. It's another RICO case, and I thought, let's go ahead and compare where we've got protesters who have been charged versus the other RICO case we've kind of been talking about. So, yes, I do have the letter from Fani. I do. Jim, I was wondering... if I would you all like me to go through the letter from Fani first before I dive into the indictment? Would you be interested in it? Because I can kind of start out tonight with that. Yes, okay. The letter's beautiful. Read it, okay. Oh, I love it, sure. So, okay, absolutely. Let's get started with that then. I'll go ahead and read the letter now. I've not read it, so this will be this will be new to me. But I'll go ahead and go through the letter, and then we will jump into this indictment shortly thereafter. So let's get going. I'm very excited now. I just pulled the letter. Now, we all know who Mr. Jim Jordan is, right? Does everyone know who he is? Just to make sure. Oh my gosh. Okay, so he's a congressman. He was asked to come and testify in front of Congress for the January 6th committee, and he refused. He said he would not come in. So, he said, look, I'm not going to do it. Now, we have a couple other people that refused, and one of them was actually convicted today. And he got into some significant trouble for contempt of Congress. And so this is another person who was not in there. Partisan congressman that had a law degree but never practiced law. Yikes. That's okie dokie. Oh, thank you very much, the captain. Appreciate it. Good to see you. All right, well, let's jump in here. Let's see what she's got to say. Again, I've not read this, so am I in frame okay, everybody? I just wanted to double check before I dive in. Just making sure. Okay, excellent. Okay, So here we go. So to Congressman Jim Jordan, and this is email. Dear Mr. Jordan. Whoa, she starts off, she doesn't even say Dear Congressman. I love that already. I'm loving that. I have received your letter dated August 24th of 2023. On August 14th of 2023, a Fulton County grand jury returned a true bill of indictment charging 19 defendants with felony violations of Georgia law, including violation of Georgia's Racketeering Influence Corrupt Organizations Act, Georgia RICO, under this section of the code. Beyond that resuscitation of charges, your letter contains inaccurate information and misleading statements. The true bill of indictment returned on August 14th is attached as Exhibit A. And now here we go. Number one. I love her organization here. Number one, your attempt to interfere. Whoa! Oh my goodness. Your attempt to interfere with and obstruct this office's prosecution of state criminal cases is unconstitutional. Yikes. As you know, Chairman Jordan, the congressional power of inquiry is not unlimited. Congress is not a law enforcement or trial agency that's function is reserved only for the executive and judicial departments of government. Moreover, investigations conducted solely for the personal aggrandizement of the investigators or to punish those investigated are indefensible. More fundamentally, a congressional subpoena is valid only if it is related to and in furtherance of a legitimate task of the Congress. Oh, she cited a Trump case. That's nice. Your letter offends... Whoa! Oh my goodness. Your letter offends each and every one of these settled principles. Its obvious purpose is to obstruct a Georgia criminal proceeding and to advance outrageous partisan misrepresentations. As I make clear below, there's no justification in the Constitution for Congress to interfere with a state criminal matter as you attempt to do. Furthermore, your note calls to mind another letter recently submitted to a House Select Committee. Quote, this unprecedented action serves no legitimate legislative purpose and would set a dangerous precedent for future Congresses. The American people deserve better, end quote. See letter from Representative Jordan to Chairman Bernie Thompson, dated January 9th. Uh-oh. I'm getting worried already. I feel like there's going to come some, he's going to do a bit of a smackdown here. All right. Your letter offends principles of state sovereignty. Wow. That's quite the opening. All right. The demands, I got to switch pens here. I got to get serious. I got to switch pens. The demands in your letter and your efforts at intruding upon the state of Georgia's criminal authority violate the constitutional principles of federalism. Whoa. Criminal prosecutions under state law are primarily the responsibility of state governments. Congress's lawful prerogative to interfere with states' administration of their criminal laws is extremely limited, citing case law here and the rules of the House. As the Supreme Court held in United States versus Lopez, under our federal system, the states possess primary authority for defining and enforcing the criminal law. See also U.S. v. Morrison. We can think of no better example of the police power which the founders denied the national government and reposed in the states than the suppression of crime and vindication of its victims. Indeed, because the power to create and enforce state criminal law is an attribute of state sovereignty reserved by the 10th Amendment, it is necessarily a power the Constitution has not conferred on Congress. New York v. U.S. That's a great case. The Supreme Court has thus recognized a fundamental policy against federal interference with state criminal prosecutions. And she's citing more cases here. Pursuant to that rule, the federal government must observe a strict policy of no interference with state officers who are charged with the duty of prosecuting offenders against the laws of the state, and must decide when and how this is to be done. I'm citing more case law. This court repeatedly has recognized that criminal law is primarily the business of the states, and that absent the most extraordinary circumstances, the federal courts should not interfere with the states' administration of the law. Citing more case law. What is true of federal courts is doubly true of federal legislators, given the state's sovereignty over state criminal law. Congress has hardly any role to play in meddling with its sound administration. Oh my goodness. In light of these principles, your attempt to invoke congressional authority to intrude upon and interfere with an active criminal case in Georgia is flagrantly at odds with the Constitution. The defendants in this case have been charged under state law with committing state crimes. There is absolutely no support for Congress purporting to second-guess or somehow supervise an ongoing Georgia criminal investigation and prosecution. That violation of Georgia's sovereignty is offensive and will not stand. Citing case law, holding that the states enjoy the authority to undertake criminal prosecutions by virtue of their position as separate sovereigns. Oh my goodness. Oh dear. Your letter transgresses separation of power principles. In addition, your demand for information regarding an ongoing criminal prosecution, a core executive function, is offensive to any notion of separation of powers that recognize the distinct roles of the executive and legislative functions of the government. As the Supreme Court has explained, quote, the executive branch has exclusive authority and absolute discretion to decide whether to prosecute a case, end quote. Congress, in contrast, is barred by precedent from using investigations for, quote, law enforcement purposes, end quote. And citing cases here, holding that Congress may not invoke its subpoena power to interfere with a case pending in a court of competent jurisdiction. You have thus violated the basic constitutional rule that the power to investigate must not be confused with any of the powers of law enforcement. Those powers are assigned under our Constitution to the executive and the judiciary. Indeed, given that two of your requests concern any documents or communications among federal officials, we must note the position taken on similar matters by the United States Justice Department. As a leading scholar writes, quote, Congress seems generally to have been respectful of the need to protect material contained in open federal criminal investigative files. And we're citing Mr. Peterson here, a Notre Dame Law Review article. More recently, the DOJ explained that ongoing department policy prevents us from confirming or denying the existence of pending investigations in response to congressional requests or providing non-public information about our investigations. Letter from the Assistant Attorney General Carlos to Chairman Jordan, dated January 20th of 2023 at page 3 to 4. As DOJ emphasizes, quote, the department's mission to independently and impartially uphold the rule of law requires us to maintain the integrity of our investigations, prosecutions, and civil actions, and to avoid even a perception that our efforts are influenced by anything but the law and the facts. So does the department's obligation to protect witnesses and law enforcement avoid flight by those implicated in our investigations and prevent additional crimes and attacks. Those points are equally true here. Given that your inquiry implicates core federalism and separation of power concerns, the careful inquiry imposed by Mazars further constricts your lawful authority. Citing case law here, under that test, federal courts must 1. Carefully assess whether the asserted legislative purpose warrants the significant step of involving the target of the investigation, including by asking whether other sources could reasonably provide Congress the same information it needs. 2. Insist on a subpoena no broader than reasonably necessary to support Congress's legislative objective. 3. Be attentive to the nature of the evidence offered by Congress to establish that a subpoena advances a valid, legitimate purpose. And 4, assesses the burden imposed by subpoena. And she's citing case law here. So she's not messing around. We've got some legitimate sources here. For the reasons set forth in this letter, it's clear that you cannot satisfy any of these constitutional requirements. Whoa, not any of them, goodness, let alone all of them in the inquiry you describe. C, your letter improperly interferes with the administration of criminal justice. Whoa! There are extremely good reasons why congressional committees have historically avoided interfering with criminal trial proceedings. Sharing non-public information about pending criminal matters may violate local and state confidentiality obligations and professional ethics rules. It may also prejudice defendants, victims, or witnesses, or affect the overall integrity of proceedings. In some cases, it could produce a bizarre dual-track discovery scheme. Ooh, we don't want that circumvents court rules that are carefully calibrated to ensure compliance with principles of sound criminal procedure. For these reasons, objections to a criminal investigation or prosecution are properly raised, at least in the first instance, at courts with lawful jurisdiction, not through partisan legislative inquiries. The courts in the state of Georgia are fully up to the task of adjudicating the rights of all parties at issue. Oh my goodness. Returning to first principles, federal courts have long recognized the need for a zone of non-interference around prosecutorial decision-making within our criminal justice system, so long as the prosecutor has probable cause to believe that the accused committed an offense defined by statute. The decision whether or not to prosecute and what charge to file or bring before a grand jury generally rests entirely in the prosecutor's discretion. And she's citing this case here. Federal courts are therefore properly hesitant to review prosecution decisions under the United States Constitution, since examining the basis of a prosecution delays the criminal proceeding, threatens to chill law enforcement by subjecting the prosecutor's motives and decision-making to outside inquiry, and may undermine prosecutorial effectiveness by revealing the government's enforcement policy. Congress has even less of an appropriate basis to interfere in criminal matters. I think that's an excellent point. As an expert on the subject writes, quote, "The Constitution excludes Congress from any involvement in prosecutorial decisions in the individual cases even more forcefully than it excludes the judiciary, and requires federal prosecutorial independence from congressional interference in order to protect individual liberty and preserve the integrity of the criminal justice system." That's a good point. Of course, while it is disturbing for Congress to involve itself in federal cases, it's even more troubling for Congress to tread upon state criminal matters that are doubly beyond its constitutional authority. Here, your letter seeks the revelation of non-public and privileged information concerning my office's investigation and prosecution of a specific case. Your public statements and your letter itself make clear that you lack any legitimate legislative purpose. Whoa! For that inquiry, your job description as a legislator does not include criminal law enforcement. Yikes! Nor does it include supervising a specific criminal trial because you believe that doing so will promote your partisan political objectives. Oh my goodness. This leads me to a critical point. Quote, "Every president takes office knowing that he will be subject to the same laws as all other citizens upon leaving office. This is a feature of our democratic republic, not a bug," House Committee ruling here. Indeed, even Mr. Trump himself has acknowledged before the U.S. Supreme Court that, quote, "state grand juries are free to investigate a sitting president with an eye towards charging him after the completion of his term." And this is the Trump v. Vance case, which I should do sometime for you guys. I don't think I've ever done a post on that. That's a great case. For the rule of law to prevail, nobody should be permitted to violate state criminal law with impunity. D, your letter burdens the deliberate process privilege. Beyond the many problems that I have already identified, your letter fails to recognize the deliberate process privilege. This privilege protects information regarding a government official's decision-making process to allow her the ability to engage in the necessary investigative and deliberative process to make informed decisions. citing law here, dun, dun, dun. Your attempts at probing communications among and involving counsel in my office are wholly inappropriate. Whoo, goodness. Okay. 2, my voluntary response to portions of your letter are below. While settled constitutional law clearly permits me to ignore your unjustified and illegal intrusion into an open state criminal prosecution, I will take a moment to voluntarily respond to parts of your letter. Whoa. Oh my goodness gracious. What? Oh my gosh. All right. Chairman Jordan, I tell people often, deal with reality or reality will deal with you. It is time that you deal with some basic realities. A special purpose grand jury made up of everyday citizens investigated for 10 months and made recommendations to me. A further reality is that a grand jury of completely different Fulton County citizens found probable cause against the defendants named in the indictment for RICO violations and various other felonies. Face this reality, Chairman Jordan. The select group of defendants who you fret over in my jurisdiction are like every other defendant entitled to no worse or better treatment than any other American citizen. Oh my goodness. Oh, this is Miss Fonnie Willis to Congressman Jim Jordan. B, your notion that different standards of justice should apply to a select group of people is offensive. Wow. Here is another reality you must face. Those who wish to avoid felony charges in Fulton County, Georgia, including violations of Georgia RICO law, should not commit felonies in Fulton County, Georgia. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. Oh boy, she is just laying it out for him. In this jurisdiction, every person is subject to the same laws and the same process because every person is entitled to the same dignity and is held to the same standard of responsibility. Persons' socioeconomic status, race, gender, orientation, or political prominence does not entitle them to an exemption from that basic standard. Defendant Trump's status as a political candidate cannot make him legally immune from criminal prosecution. The basic premise of your letter is wrong. The criminal defendant about which you express concern was fully aware of the existence of the criminal investigation being conducted by Fulton County District Attorney's Office at the time he announced his candidacy for president. I have no doubt that many Americans are the subject of criminal investigations and prosecutions at any given moment. An announcement of candidacy for elected office, whether President of the United States, Congress, or state or local office, is not and cannot be a bar to criminal investigation or prosecution. Any notion to the contrary is offensive to our democracy and to the fundamental principle that all people are equal before the law. C. An explanation of the basic obligations of a prosecutor is below. This is going to get good, I think. Here we go. Your letter makes it clear that you lack a basic understanding of the law, its practice, and the ethical obligation of attorneys generally, and prosecutors specifically. I direct your attention to Georgia Code Section 15-18-6, subsection 4, imposes upon me as district attorney the duty, quote, to draw up all indictments or presentments when requested by the grand jury, and to prosecute all indictable offenses. Section 11 requires me to assist victims and witnesses of crimes through the complexities of the criminal justice system and ensure that the victims of crimes are appraised of the rights afforded them under the law. And 12 requires that district attorneys perform such other duties as are or may be required by law or which necessarily appertain to their office. We should send burn cream. You're not wrong. You're not wrong about that. As I explained above, the defendants about whom you express concerns have been indicted by a Fulton County grand jury. That indictment identifies victims. The state of Georgia's Constitution and laws impose a duty upon me to protect, serve, and seek justice on their behalf. I will fulfill that duty in this case, notwithstanding your attempt to interfere. Furthermore, I have exercised my duties as the Chief Law Enforcement Officer in Fulton County independently and based on my obligations to the citizens of Georgia under our Constitution and laws, and nothing will deter me from the just, fair, and proper enforcement of the law. D. Your questioning of the overt and predicate acts listed in the indictment is misinformed. Your questioning of the inclusion of overt and predicate acts by the defendants in the indictment's racketeering count shows a total ignorance of Georgia's racketeering statute and the basics of criminal conspiracy law. Allow me the opportunity to provide a brief tutorial on criminal conspiracy law, Chairman Jordan. What? What? She is just about ready to school this man. As I explained to the public when announcing the indictment, the overt and predicative acts are included because the grand jury found probable cause that those acts were committed to advance the objectives of a criminal conspiracy to overturn the result of Georgia's presidential election. For a more thorough understanding of Georgia's RICO statute, its application and similar laws in other statutes, I encourage you to read RICO state by state. As a non-member of the bar, you can purchase a copy for $249. What? Oh, that's fantastic. E. Your questioning of the length of the investigation and timing of the indictment is unfounded. Your letter raises questions about the length of time this investigation has taken. This investigation began with my office believing that critical witnesses would cooperate. Several witnesses did, in fact, voluntarily come forward and cooperate, and we were able to collect pertinent evidence during the calendar year of 2021. Many witnesses, however, were uncooperative and required subpoenas to compel their cooperation. As a result of this resistance, we requested and received authorization from the Fulton County Superior Court judges to convene a special purpose grand jury to compel testimony and production of documentary evidence. You will find attached as Exhibit B my letter dated January 20th to then Chief Judge Christopher S. Brasher requesting this special grand jury. On January 24th, the Fulton County Superior Court judge authorized this special grand jury to be impaneled on May 2nd of 2022, the beginning of the third term of court of that year. The order granted my administration's, wait, hold on here. I got too excited. Oh, may request this too. Okay. To request that the special grand jury be empowered to investigate possible criminal disruption of Georgia's administration of the 2020 election. The impaneling order is attached as Exhibit C. Rather than accept service of lawful subpoenas from the special grand jury, multiple out-of-state witnesses chose to resist compliance and forced my office to litigate in multiple state and federal courts to obtain orders compelling their appearance. For example, Senator Lindsey Graham. Whoa. The ranking minority member of the Senate Judiciary Committee was a witness who refused to voluntarily comply and required my office to obtain a decision affirming his obligation to testify from the United States Supreme Court. Whoa. Whoa, I didn't know that. Shame on you, Senator Graham. That is but one example of the use of litigation by a witness to resist providing information to this investigation and to delay justice. As a result of the litigation necessary to overcome this resistance, the special grand jury required 8 months to complete its investigation and was released in January of 2023. It should be noted that this was 4 months before the expiration of their term on May 2nd. Can you slide the paper over? Oh, sure. Here we go. How's this? We'll double check. There we go. Is that better? Sorry about that. Graham actually didn't willingly. As a result, the litigation necessary to overcome this resistance required 8 months to complete its investigation and was released in January of 2023. It should be noted that this was 4 months before the expiration of their term, May 2nd. If you are sincerely interested in improving federal law, I encourage you to make it incumbent upon your congressional colleagues to cooperate with lawful investigations without requiring intervention by the highest court in the land. Whoa, that would be a productive federal initiative. Ouch. Oh, F. The Fulton County District Attorney's Office has used federal grant funding for its intended purpose. You have no basis for your implication that this office has inappropriately spent federal funds. This office receives federal grant funds via United States Department of Justice programs and has received local and national recognition for its work with community partners on a grant-funded programs. I have attached a summary of our programs funded with federal grant dollars as Exhibit E. You will note that the grant-funded programs include our nationally recognized initiative to process long-neglected assault kits and prosecute dangerous offenders who are identified via DNA results. These prosecutions are handled through this KIT initiative grant. We also receive federal grant funds from our groundbreaking hate crimes prosecution program, our community violence interruption efforts, and our programs with at-risk children. If you and your colleagues follow through on your threats to deny this office federal funds, please be aware that you will be deciding to allow serial bad people to go unprosecuted, hate crimes to be unaddressed, and to cancel programs for at-risk children. Such vengeful, uncalled for legislative action would impose serious harm on the citizens we serve, including the fact that it will make them less safe. Please note, the U.S. Department of Justice keeps meticulous records of our grant funding, and I invite you to request this information from them. You will undoubtedly be proud of the amazing work that has been done to serve victims with this funding, and you will discover that this office is in compliance with the terms of its grant funding. Whoa! To educate you on the important work that our partnership with federal government funds, you may watch, quote, I felt like I got let out of prison. A victim gets justice after 22 years. It is a compelling example of the work of this KIT unit that does with the federal grant funding provided by the DOJ. Our Community Violence Interruption Program, also funded by the same grant, has been nationally recognized. The United States Attorney General singled out our program for praise at a national conference in February of 2023. The leader of our program was honored as a presenter on July 19th of 2023 at a conference protecting children from violence sponsored by Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Those are the sort of joint federal-state initiatives that you and your colleagues are threatening to defund because you're offended that a select group of people have been indicted. G. Your allegations that I have used the prosecution for political benefit are unfounded. Your letter makes allegations that I have somehow used the investigation and prosecution about which you have inquired in a political manner. Nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, the allegations that you raise are thoroughly debunked and rated false by independent fact-checking website PolitiFact in this article here. H. Below are suggestions for productive activity by the U.S. House Judicial Committee. What? She's telling them what would be a productive use of their time. That's fantastic. All right, here we go. I do have some suggestions on how you can engage in productive legislative activity. Oh my gosh. First, victim witness advocates who take care of vulnerable victims and witnesses in prosecutors' offices across the United States are grossly underpaid. Many have advanced degrees and specialized training on serving people in distress. Fulton County, Georgia, like many jurisdictions, face significant challenges in recruiting and retaining such highly trained, dedicated public servants at current pay rates. Congress should provide more funding to states and localities for victim witness advocate pay and ensure that such funding flows to the jurisdiction that needs it the most. Second, the federal government, as noted above, has admirably provided funding so that local prosecutors can investigate these kinds of cases with this kind of KIT grant. Federal grant funding has allowed us to test a portion of untested old kits. That testing revealed that in a batch of approximately 500 untested Fulton County kits dating back to the 1990s, DNA from 40 different serial bad people was found. Federal grant funding should be increased to allow testing of all untested kits, as well as the capacity for successful investigation and prosecution of offenders identified by that testing. That initiative would make America a much safer place. Third, the federal government is funding a program to turn children around who find themselves in trouble with the criminal justice system. We partner with the United States Attorney's Office in Atlanta to sponsor the Credible Messengers program, which matches at-risk youth and adults who have been in trouble and who can share their own life experiences and serve as mentors who show them a better way. You can learn more about this program by watching this program here. This program, while valuable, has very limited capacity and leaves too many youths in need unserved. Congress should greatly expand it. Fourth, state crime labs across the nation are not properly funded. That is so true, everybody. That is so true. In fact, Georgia State Crime Lab is so overwhelmed, its leadership informed me that it does not have the capacity to test drugs like fentanyl or firearms used in violent crimes in a timely manner, and referred us to private testers to obtain necessary evidence. Further, Georgia State Crime Lab does not have adequate financial resources to properly pay their scientists, their test kits, drugs, or other scientific evidence in a timely manner. Yeah, she's just laying that all out properly. We love that. Congress must take action to address this crisis by providing resources to state crime labs to test evidence so that cases can be moved expeditiously. And last letter I. The safety of persons serving in the criminal justice system should be a primary concern of yours. As it seems you have a personal interest in the Fulton County District Attorney's Office, you should consider directing the U.S. DOJ to investigate the racist threats that have come to my staff and me because of this investigation. For your information, I'm attaching 10 examples of the threats this office has received. See Exhibits F through O. I'm providing these examples to give you a window into what has happened to my staff and me as I keep the promise of my oath to the United States and Georgia. Wow, constitutions, and do not allow myself to be bullied and threatened by members of Congress, local elected officials, or others who believe Lady Justice should not be blind and that America has different laws for different citizens. Yours in service, Fani Willis. Whoa, go Fani. That was amazing. Wow, that was an amazing letter. He didn't know who he was messing with. You see, I think a lot of people forget that, in our profession, our tools of the trade are our words. We're not messing around. She was not playing around in that situation at all. Wow. Yeah, that was exceptional. That was an exceptional letter. Yeah, she took him to school. She took him to school by his ear. Words do hurt. Words are painful. And he had those words coming. It's an excellent point that she's raising. I mean, under the Constitution, there is absolutely no jurisdiction for Congress to get involved with state criminal proceedings. It's just not appropriate whatsoever. So for him to have even spoken to her, sent this letter to her requesting information, oh my gosh, look at that, was absolutely out of line. It was just out of line. Yeah, to the yeah, she was pretty serious about that. I love that. That was amazing. That was really amazing. Well, I'm so glad that you all reminded me to pull that letter out so we could take a look at it. Yeah, I mean, she's doing great. The fact that she's having to deal with all of these issues on top of an already incredibly difficult job, that's tough. That's a tough situation. She did. She really did. She really did. Absolutely. Oh, yes, all of this will be up on my Tube of You channel. Absolutely. Yep, I make sure I get all of my lives going. And because there is so much going on in the world, I will be going live every night for the next few nights. So yeah, the $240 if he wants to read about how RICO works in Georgia. Yes. Oh yeah, that was amazing. That was pretty fantastic, I have to say. Absolutely. Yeah, she's got the yes, yes, absolutely. I mean, again, the tools of our trade. She knows how to write a letter. Thank you for sharing. Oh yeah, no, thanks for the suggestion. I'm absolutely incredibly impressed by her. She's done amazing work here. Yeah, and the fact that her office is dealing with the level of hate that they're getting, and not only just from people who are opposed to what they're doing, but also from Congress people. I mean, come on. It's like, what are you doing? We have to do our jobs here. She said that all of the people in this case have been, yeah, they have been. I mean, it's a dangerous job on a good day, but, they've not had a good day in a while, for sure. I did not go through the exhibits. No, I'll have to do that at another time, but I will take a look at that for sure. When did she send the letter? So it looks like the letter was sent September 7th. So like today. It was sent by electronic mail, as they say. But yeah, the grand jury was doxxed. Yeah, I agree. Not enough hours in the day. I agree. This is online. You can look up, just go online and you look up Fonnie Willis letter to Jim Jordan, and make sure you add in a PDF to it so you get a specific document pulled up, because there's lots of summaries. Whoever just told me to hydrate, thank you kindly. I think I will. But they do have it available. You just want to make sure that you pull the exact document up. Okay, well, thank you everybody. Yeah, oh, it's an amazing letter. What did his letter say to her? That's a good question, and that has not been disclosed. I could not find that. I'm not saying it won't be available at some point, but you want to write letters like that? Oh, I believe you. I believe in you. You can do it. You can do it. You can absolutely do it. Yeah, I don't blame her one bit. You've got Congress coming in, asking you to give your information over in an open case. Like, come on. That's really, it's a lot. It's a lot for sure. So, as I move on here, I did have a couple of different things that I've got in line here. We've got this indictment again. This is the Cop City protesters that we had been talking about, and it's another RICO charge out of Georgia. So we can kind of compare and contrast this indictment. And I thought that would be really interesting. I also do have, though, with me, we had someone who was just found guilty today in court. Let me see if I can pull his. Actually, I think I must have left it in my other office, but I do have the one thing I would like to go through at some point outside of this. Yes, Peter Navarro. Yeah, he was just found guilty by the jury today, which, he was in contempt of court for this very issue, or contempt of Congress. So that was some very interesting information. Yes, that had come down. Yeah, he was, but he turned out, Ava, he didn't. He sure was. Yeah, so that is definitely something that I want to put together so we can do a live on that. I'll probably go live and go through that tomorrow. Oh, there was a girl heckling him. Yikes. Yes. So the other thing I have here was hold on here. Let me see if I can find it. I'm just buried in paperwork. Yikes. I do have, this is the Colorado case, the petition that they have filed regarding the 14th Amendment. I was able to get this printed out, and they've included lots of different points in here, lots of examples. So I do have the Colorado petition, which I thought would be really interesting to go through. So I've got lots of things that I can go through. Yes, absolutely. So I've got lots on my live docket for the next couple of days. I'll be making sure to go through all of that. Yes, absolutely. So yeah, I think the big thing was that Navarro would not go to Congress and testify, even though he was told to. So he was found in contempt. That was the big issue. I also was able to pull out the information on the Murdaugh situation that's going on, where we've got the this question of a potentially tainted juror. That is the other issue that I've got as well. Yeah, Bannon. Yeah, you're right. You're right. It was quite an issue going on. Yeah, he ignored the subpoena, which, I mean, and now he could potentially look at jail time. Yes, the Murdaugh situation. So I have that also. He hasn't been sentenced yet. He was just found guilty. So the sentence hasn't been set. Yeah, the clerk of court is alleged to have kind of messed around in that situation. So I do have that information as well. Yeah, Bannon had Jim Jordan also, I know, right? So he's asking for all this information, but meanwhile, he himself ignored it. So there was a lot going on. Yeah, not sentenced quite yet. Soon though. Yeah, the Murdaugh stuff. So I'm putting that together. So I'm hoping to kind of go through those things over the next few days, because there's just so much going on. Oh, thank you, California Dreamin'. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Jim Jordan, I agree. Yeah, he pushed Miss Willis too far. We can't do that. Yeah, it's a bit unusual. Yeah, I'll go through Murdaugh. I'm not ready to do it tonight. I haven't had a chance to go through and, highlight everything. So I can't do it tonight, but I'll probably do that one tomorrow, or the 14th Amendment tomorrow too. Tonight I've really just got this second RICO charge out of Georgia that I thought would be good to go through. But I do have them on my docket for sure. Yeah, he's appealing, and he's been out of jail this whole time, Lisa. He hasn't been in at all. Like, if he had gone in, he would have already finished serving his time by the amount of time it's taking for his appeals to go through. This is the biggest thing, Kyle. Do you mean the indictment here? Oh, absolutely. I agree. Yes, I agree completely. It's a lot. Oh, no, not this. Okay. Well, you'll have to be more specific, Kyle. He's trying to delay. Absolutely. Any chance you can cover the Ken Paxton trial in Texas? I have been looking into that, and the only reason I haven't really brought it up is because there is so much coverage of it. I felt like there would be enough out there, but is this new? Yes, Daisy, this was just filed on August 29th, so just a week ago this came out, this indictment. Yeah, so oh, you're welcome, Jamie. Yeah, you're welcome. But I wanted to go through this because it's a little hinky. I mean, that's kind of what I use in the, business when we're like, is it hinky? This is a little hinky. The ACLU has already said that this indictment is not looking proper. So I think, there's some issues. Let me go ahead and dive on in here. I'm really going to just kind of go through this a little bit at a time. So what we have the Attorney General's office out of Georgia. So the Attorney General's name is Christopher. Let me get his name pulled up here. Christopher Carr. He is the Attorney General. Now, there were a group of people that were protesting the law enforcement complex that was being put together in Georgia. And yeah, I mean, I think domestic terror, I mean, again, I'm going to be careful with my language here, but, you know, let's go through what we've got here before we make our decisions. I think it's worth taking a look at. Yeah, I think we're definitely in questionable land here. So, these people were protesting, and so they've now been charged with multiple counts, but most importantly was the racketeering count. Now, we've been going through the RICO case, or the RICO law, so much, I thought, let's compare and contrast this case with that one. Yes, there was violence, there were police targeted, there were a lot of things going on. And so I think it's worth it to kind of look through and see what happened here according to this indictment. So let me start just taking you through the very beginning, and we'll kind of break it apart. And, you know, there's protesting, and then there is protesting that violates the law. And as everyone knows, if you violate the law, you need to be charged with violating the law. I am all for that. So I think it's important that we go through the probable cause here. So let's take a look. We have all of the names here. I'm not going to go through all of them. There's just so many. But we have all of these people here, count one. And I'll take you through the different overt acts, and we can kind of compare and contrast. So the accused with the offense, they've been charged with a violation of the Georgia Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act for the said accused individually and as persons connected in the commission of a crime. Again, this connection is that conspiracy element that we have for RICO in Georgia. And together with unindicted co-conspirators, again, not everyone was indicted, in the state of Georgia, county of Fulton, on or between May 25th of 2020 and August 25th of 2023, while associated with an enterprise, did unlawfully conspire and endeavor to conduct and participate in directly and indirectly in enterprise. This is the exact same language in the other indictment, through a pattern of racketeering activity in violation of the RICO statute, as more particularly described below. So I want to really walk through what this enterprise was with the people that were involved here. So part one, the enterprise. Here's the introduction. Again, probable cause is what's needed. We do have the indictment here. Now, I think it's important to note that the grand jury that indicted was not listed. The people were not listed, unlike the other indictment, the Trump indictment, where everyone was listed. But they were not listed here. So there are several things that are a little bit different going on in this indictment. The reason I think it's worth noting is you can tell that there are different attorneys here that are bringing these cases. So this is not Fonnie Willis's case. This is the Attorney General. The purpose of Defend the Atlanta Forest is to occupy of parts or all of 381 forested acres in DeKalb County, Georgia, that's owned by the Atlanta Police Foundation and leased by the city of Atlanta for the purposes of preventing the construction of the Atlanta Public Safety Training Center. All right, so did everyone get that? So it's owned by, we've got 380 forested acres owned by Atlanta Police Foundation and leased by the city of Atlanta for the purpose of preventing the construction. Each individual charged in this indictment knowingly joined the conspiracy in an attempt to prevent the training center from being built. So this is the common criminal goal, the enterprise, right? So whenever we're dealing with a RICO situation, we have to have a common goal. The common goal was preventing the training center from being built. That conspiracy contained a common purpose to commit two or more racketeering activities in Fulton County, Georgia, elsewhere in the state of Georgia and in other states. Yes, there is a requirement to list the grand jurors, but they were not listed. I was very careful when I went through because I was planning to cover up everyone's name, but they are nowhere listed in this indictment whatsoever. So I think it's interesting. I'm not sure if that's because they've learned something from their experience or what, but they've not been listed. Typical forest protesters so far. Right, so exactly, and let's get into it. And again, I have no preconceived notions about this whatsoever. I'm just looking here at the facts and what's going on. B, Defend the Atlanta Forest. Defend the Atlanta Forest is a self-identified coalition and enterprise of militia anarchists, eco activists and community organizers. Based in Atlanta, this anarchist and anti-police and environmental activism organization coordinates, advertises, and conducts direct action designed to prevent the construction of the Atlanta Police Public Safety Training Center and Shadowbox Studio, previously known as Black Hall Studios, and promote anarchist ideas. Now, this is a pretty big buzzword, anarchist. So in order to include that, yes, inflammatory subjective descriptions. Yeah, it's quite a bit, isn't it? So I think, we're going to need to pull this apart. Where are they getting this word anarchist? Is it from the code? We'll take a look and see. This self-proclaimed direct action has included vandalizing of private property, arson, destruction of government property, attacks on utility workers, attacks on law enforcement, attacks on private citizens, and this kind of violence. Now, of course, all of these are violations of the law, right? So I'm going to pause for a moment. If we have any one of these, you would think they would be charged under the Georgia Code as separate charges, wouldn't you? Just as a general. I mean, yes, we've got our overt acts and we'll go through that. But if we have vandalizing property, arson, destruction of property, attacks here, you would think that everyone here would be charged with assaults, with improper use of weapons, with destruction, and all of these other things. You would think they would also be criminally charged, right? Seems pretty typical. Similar legal documents. Exactly. But these, each and every single one of these are individual criminal acts that could be charged separately under the code. So just keep that in mind as we go through this. I'm just raising this to your attention because this is pretty powerful language here. So, if they did this, of course, we would have legal violations. And if we have legal violations, wouldn't they all be charged with this as well? So, or individually, whomever did it, whomever attacked law enforcement would be charged, right, with an assault on law enforcement. Wouldn't you think? That seems like it would be important. So just keep that in mind as we go through. The purpose of these actions is to prevent the construction of the training center and the movie studio, all while promoting virulent anarchist ideals, which again, it's interesting language here. C, anarchy background of defend the Atlanta forest. Anarchy is a philosophical that is opposed to forms. Anarchy is a philosophy that's opposed to forms of authority or hierarchy. Beginnings of anarchy or anarchist ideal date back centuries through usage of the term anarchy. Did not exist until the 1800s. So we're taking a moment, we're having a bit of a history over this word anarchy, which again is a little bit different. Over time, various philosophical forms of anarchy have emerged. Numerous anarchist philosophies exist, though anarchists are not required to subscribe to one particular belief or anarchy. Rather, the notion of anarchy being grounded in anti-authority mindset primarily targets government because it views government as unnecessarily oppressive. Instead of relying on a modicum of government structure, anarchy relies on a human association instead of the government to fulfill all human needs. Some of the major ideas that anarchists promote include collectivism, mutualism, mutual aid, and social solidarity. And these same ideas are frequently seen in the Defend the Atlanta Forest movement. All right, so again, let's take a moment here and note in our indictment, they're explaining we have a criminal enterprise. We're going to be looking at the overt acts. But we're taking a moment to look into the history and definition of what anarchy is. It's hinky. I'm going to say it. It's a little hinky. Very broad definition. Yes. Is it illegal to appeal to anarchy? No. No, it is not. It is not illegal to be an anarchist, to claim that you are an anarchist. Now, your actions, those can be illegal. But to be an anarchist? No, that is not. Hinky. It's a little hinky. Charged in separate cases. Right. And we'll see that. We will see. We've got multiple counts coming in. So let's take a look. Hinky hinky. All right, but again, we're looking at this history of what anarchy means, and then now we're applying this history that has no citations at all. These are just like whoever wrote this information in there. We don't have citations, and they're saying that this applies to this movement. So it's a little different. It's a little different. Yes, this is the AG's office. This is the Attorney General filing this. Collectivism is the idea that individual needs are subordinate to the good of the whole society. That is, decisions are made based upon what's best for the group and not necessarily what is best for individuals. In embracing collectivism, individuals are expected to sacrifice personal income, personal liberty, or personal property if it benefits society as a whole. The decision of whether an individual should sacrifice their own individual needs is not made by the individual. Rather, it's a true collectivist society. The society as a whole decides whether the individual must forfeit their own needs or property if it deemed to benefit the society. Nevertheless, in an ideal collectivist society, individuals already make the decision to donate to collective without prompting from others. Again, now we're talking about this definition of collectivism, and we have no citations. Yet again, where's our citations for this ideology called collectivism? Where are they getting this information from? Right. Yeah. Again, right. Now, before I go too far, let me just give you something to compare it to. So, we have here, again, which is what I'm hoping to do here, is to kind of compare and contrast a couple of different RICO charges out of Fulton County. So if we look at this RICO case, right, the one that we've been talking about all the time, she's starting it out with the enterprise. So she goes into what the whole point of the criminal enterprise is. Now we go into manners and methods of the enterprise. False statements, here's the evidence, okay? False statements, again, here's the evidence. So she's walking us through, in her indictment, each one of the pieces by citing evidence. Now, as we go through all pieces of this, again, who was contacted, what did they do, what was the violation, this is her introductory piece. And then we flip it, and now we're into overt acts. At no point is there some kind of a philosophical discussion about what an unlawful breach of election equipment is. You know what I'm saying? There's a pretty distinct difference here. I'm just finding it a little bit different. We're going into this philosophical, or almost Webster's dictionary discussion of what collectivism is, what anarchy is. Now we'll go into mutual aid. Something interesting, right? Shouldn't there be guidelines? There should be, Sequin. There should be. There should be. So here we go. Let's just dive on in. Again, we're comparing and contrasting. Mutual aid is a term popularized by anarchists to describe individuals who exchange goods and services to assist other individuals in society without government intervention. Closely related to collectivism, mutual aid is not a new term, nor is it limited to anarchy. However, the major factor in anarchist mutual aid is the absence of government and the absence of hierarchy. Indeed, an anarchist belief relies on the notion that once government is abolished, individuals will rely on mutual aid to exist. In doing so, anarchists believe that the individual will work together and voluntarily contribute their own resources to ensure that each individual has its own needs met. Again, I pause. Where are any of the individuals listed here as defendants involved in any of this? Are they saying that their actions are like this? Because right now it looks like we're just going through and defining different terminology. It's very unusual. It's very unusual. They do get upset if you include stuff that has no relevance. Yeah. Nothing sounds illegal so far. Right. Nothing sounds illegal so far. So, I mean, that's, again, I'm just thinking like, well, okay, we're setting out some terminology, and it's like, well, what's the purpose of the terminology? You're not explaining who is involved. You're not explaining what acts were involved. We're just kind of introducing these different terms. So, Yeah, it does. It sounds, it's a little different, isn't it? It's a little different. So here we go. Social solidarity is another term that is embraced by anarchists. Now, again, they're using this term anarchist, but they're not applying it to the group of people. They've given the group of people a name. The group of people are called the accused. Nowhere in any of this do we have, in this particular section, the background, and defending the Atlanta Forest, which is the name of the group. So the only place that the name of the group has been is at the beginning of the heading. But they have not been mentioned in any of these paragraphs when they're just going through terminology. Interesting. Yes, this is the indictment. This is the indictment. All right, so let's keep going. Social solidarity is the idea individuals can live together without government can provide for each other. The notion of social solidarity relies heavily on the idea of human altruism, that is, individuals will voluntarily offer goods, services, and resources without anything compelling it. Anarchists often shorten the term social solidarity simply into the term solidarity, and it's frequently woven into speeches, statements, and writings of anarchists. In addition to the term solidarity and other anarchist terms, anarchists often weave the term mutual aid and collective into their jargon and writings. Okay, so we pause again. So maybe what they're doing then is explaining some of the language that's to come. We'll see. Perhaps that's it. Violence is part of the anarchism in some anarchist beliefs, viewing their own violent acts as political violence. Violent anarchists attempt to frame the government as violent oppressionists, thereby justifying the anarchists' own violence. Indeed, the belief is that the government is engaging in a form of violence by denying individuals basic needs through capitalism, government action, and law enforcement by police. Anarchists often point to law enforcement as one of the chief violent actors, and they accuse the government of using law enforcement to oppress societal change, and they view the structure of government as inherently oppressive and violent. As a result, violent anarchists often engage in violent activities towards law enforcement, and it's justified because of the anarchist belief that the ends justify the anarchist means. The local anarchists supporting the Stop Cop City movement recently wrote as such. All right, so now we're finally getting into a piece of what's actually been involved. It does read like that, doesn't it? So, all right. Now, again, I'm not read through all of this. So, all right, recently wrote as such. So if this is supposed to be the writing, which before I get into this, I'm struggling even at this point because I'm like, okay, we're about to go through what their, maybe their manifesto. They're about to explain their manifesto. Like, okay, where's the citation? Where are they? I don't even know what this is. It's an indented paragraph. All right. So it seems like it would be some kind of a citation, some kind of a direct quote from the accused. And it says, as noted by the anarchist above, but I've got no citation, so I don't know who wrote this. So already I'm uncertain here. This just sounds like a college paper. Right. Is it a quote? Exactly. I don't see any quotes, which means you're just indenting it. This is clearly indented, which is fine. But where's the citation? I'm just not sure who it is that's quoting it. I think that's important to note because if you're including in a grand jury indictment the manifesto of a group that you're claiming is a RICO case, it seems like you would have a citation. It says it at the end of the paragraph before, a local anarchist supporting. Right. So is this an unindicted co-conspirator? Is this... Who's this? Is this one of the accused? It's a little suspicious. It's suspicious. We don't know who the anarchist is. They could be one of the 40, it could be a 45 truthers. Exactly. Right. A local anarchist supporting this movement, which this is the first time that movement's been mentioned. So this was not mentioned in any of the aforementioned pieces. They only mentioned the law enforcement center. They didn't mention this movement. Now they're putting in this paragraph. Now, let me go through this because I bet it's probably pretty important, but yet we have no citation to it. This was a written paper on the militia. But who wrote the paper? How do we know that? I mean, again, well, let's go through it. Let's see if we can find the answer. A local anarchist supporting the Stop Cop City movement recently wrote as such. Again, we don't know who wrote it. We don't know where it was written. So I guess I'm just going to have to take it on faith that the person writing this article is correct. And this article is a grand jury indictment. The movement's militant direct action, land occupation, and sabotage of construction machinery have not only kept the struggle alive, but shifted the Overton window when it comes to how even nonprofits are willing to engage the struggle. When asked about the sabotage of construction and police machinery, the referendum campaign, notably headed by nonprofits and electoral organizers, has continuously reiterated its support for diversity of tactics in a stark departure from many nonprofits' more risk-adverse approach to political action. Through a combination of tactics, the Stop Cop City has built a united front against Cop City that is willing to fight by any means necessary. This is incredibly inflammatory information, which I think would be an essential piece of evidence in proving what's going on with all of these people if they're involved in this. But I don't know who wrote this. I don't know where this is from. So this is not proper evidence. Just as with tactics that directly engage the system, much of the militant direct action has also heightened contradictions and exposed hypocrisies, thrusting fundamental questions into public consciousness. As we, and again, who are we, more concerned about the violence of destroying construction machinery and police property, or about the violence of capitalist exploitation, environmental devastation, and police murder? Question. What do we do when it's liberal Democrats rather than Republicans who are leading the efforts to destroy an urban forest, suppress residents' right to vote, and expand the police state? Do we truly believe that Cop City is a matter of life and death? And if we do, what are we willing to do to stop it? This is incredibly important piece of evidence with absolutely no way to authenticate it. There's no authentication, not even the most basic. So let's look and see. Maybe there's some kind of a citation here. As noted by the anarchist above, again, unnamed, the militant anarchists engage in violence to bring attention to their own political goals. Again, we're talking about a general, not even the accused. They're not even mentioning the accused here. To their own political goals and their perceived government violence. But political violence is not simply a philosophy. Now we finally have the name of the organization. Okay, good. Defend the Atlanta Forest has put the philosophy into action. So this is the first time that they're bringing in the name of the organization. So they're claiming this philosophy that they just explained is being used by the group. Indeed, in one example, a known Defend the Atlanta Forest arsonist was recorded complaining that there was not enough violent members in protest against the training center. So now this, I think, is a good piece of evidence for what they're trying to go forward with. We finally have a decent piece of evidence. Now, you don't have to have everything set out perfectly in an indictment. I get that. We only need probable cause. But we've got no basis for this. We've got no anchoring. We don't know who wrote it, who it's directed to. And so the first piece that they're actually mentioning is all the way in here with this sentence. Who said it? Again, who said it to whom and when? Right, of course. I mean, again, this is just hearsay. You know, I heard that one of the people said that they wanted more violent people there. This, of course, is hearsay. But then again, you know, hearsay can be permissible in certain situations. So it could be possible. But this is, I think, the first piece of arguably usable evidence. The spread of anarchist ideas is conducted through word and mouth, internet, and written form. As with any political ideology, the promotion of anarchist ideas exists and is spread on the internet. Additionally, as noted later in this indictment, Defend the Atlanta Forest anarchists target, which again, let me just take a moment. We have this organization, right? And I get that. I think that's important that we have the organization. But as noted here, the accused is not referred to as this organization. So are they referring to the accused, or are they referring to this separate organization? Is the organization the accused, or are we using these interchangeably? Because they specifically set out all of these people and they called them the accused, right? All of these people are the accused. I don't, now nowhere in here, and you'll just have to take my word for it, although I never say that, but nowhere in here does it say the Atlanta Forest, the Defend the Atlanta Forest people. I'm just noting another piece that's off here. It's a little bit off. Right. So I would, if it was me, I would say the accused, right? The accused are the ones that are targeting and recruiting individuals, not this particular association, because we're not linking it yet. Yeah, exactly. Are they going? That's a good question. So let's keep going here. Once these individuals have been recruited, members of Defend the Atlanta Forest also promote anarchist ideas through written documents and word of mouth. Okay, vague, but I'm believing they can support that. A leading anarchist member, again, who is that, of Defend the Atlanta Forest wrote that they recruit and radicalize liberals by providing subversive narrative without encouraging state solutions. There's no citation here. There is no citation, and this is a direct quote. I mean, this is completely unacceptable legal. It's completely unacceptable. We have a direct quote from someone, we don't know who, a direct quote with no citation at all. Other written documents, known collectively, colloquially as Zines, promote anarchist ideas. This one is maybe okay if we can figure out what Zines are later on. Maybe that's later listed. Anarchist documents located with the Defend the Atlanta Forest group decry capitalism in any form, condemn government, and cast all law enforcement as violent, this word. Again, this is a maybe. I think that this could be supported later on with more information. The documents subsequently often conclude that the remedy for the perceived repression conducted by the government is to do acts of violence. This is incredibly vague as well. And, maybe again could be supportive. These anarchist Zines have been located throughout the forested areas occupied by the so-called forest defenders. Again, now we've got another group. We've got the accused, we have the Defend the Forest, and now we have the forest defenders. So now we have three groups of people that we're dealing with, in addition to other locations where anarchists are known to be. Again, which anarchists? Which group of people? Nietzsche. Right. Yeah, show me the Zines. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. I mean, I'm not saying that this doesn't exist, and I'm certainly not saying that we don't have probable cause. I'm just saying that the way that this is written, just right in the very first couple of pages with a RICO case, it's unusual. Yeah, it looks like they're just locating them, maybe just setting them in the area. Gotta go, good night. Okay, Greg, have a good night. Have a great night. In addition to handing out documents, okay, so we're handing out pamphlets. So let's keep that in mind. Individuals who join Defend the Atlanta Forest are offered financial, personal, and emotional support to remain loyal to the movement. This is very classic gang activity. So I think this is important. That's an important piece. Indeed, the forest defenders are provided with monetary, emotional, and personal support during their occupation of the forest, during their incarceration, and after their incarceration. Okay, again, I think this is also supportive of that collective ideology. The discussions of support often refer to providing mutual aid and solidarity. All right. And in addition to providing monetary and emotional support, there's preparation for arrest. Most forest defenders, again, this is another group of people that have not been mentioned before, are aware that they are preparing to break the law. Now, this is a complete supposition as well, but can be proven later, so I think that may be okay. And this is demonstrated by premeditation of attacks. Now, again, this idea of premeditation, this is key as well. If that can be proven, that is an essential element as well to a RICO situation. Preparation efforts, including efforts to avoid detection, plans to disguise their identity, and preparation in the case of arrest, despite efforts to avoid capture. Preparation include, but is not limited to, again, these preparation steps are important for overt acts when we're dealing with the RICO or a conspiracy situation as well. So I think that's important to have in here. Disguising their face, bringing changes of clothing to blend in after the crime's committed, hiding in crowds, using technology avoidance, devices such as Faraday bags and burner phones, memorizing or writing the Atlanta Solidarity Fund's phone number on their body in case of arrest. Shortly afterwards, in an effort to delegitimize the facts as they relayed by law enforcement and to keep the loyalty of the Forrest defendants, members of the, again, we've got two different groups here. Members of the Defend the Atlanta Forest often contact news media and flood social media with claims that their unlawful actions are protected by the First Amendment. Okay, I would say this entire paragraph is actually pretty good. So I'm going to give this an okay check mark. I'm not sure what it's leading to, but I think they've done a good job when they're trying to set out some kind of a conspiracy. After arrest, emotional and personal support is offered through letter writing campaigns and encouragement of solidarity. In doing so, this offers emotional support and maintains the loyalty of the accused with the Defend the Atlanta Forest movement. On the other hand, an accused that demonstrates potential disloyalty to Defend the Atlanta Forest risks losing all financial, personal, and emotional support that's offered. This is also pretty close to some gang language in the RICO statutes. One example includes the threat to refuse to post bail for an incarcerated arrestee unless he complied with Defend the Atlanta Forest demands. Interesting. That one I'm unsure about. These anarchist ideals, and actions undergird the occupation of the forested area that will be the site of the Atlanta Public Training Center. So now we're back to the training center. It was Cop City before, but now it's the training center again. All right, so that was a bit of a mess. In my humble opinion. And that's okay. We can have messes, but yes, we are reading from the indictment for the Cop City, Georgia protester group, and those terms are not firm terms. Indictment of 61 defendants from Cop City. Thank you, Wonderlusting. Yes. All right, here we go. So let's look and see. Now we need to get into the Enterprise. Let's see how the Enterprise is going. Again, comparing and contrasting this to the other RICO case here, where she had set out, again, she had actually even opened with a table of contents, which was nice and helpful. Different styles, and that's absolutely fine, but we still have to have basic pieces. Do you think this should be a RICO case or not? Not yet. I don't see anything that is like a RICO case except for those last few paragraphs. That's it. Don't you need probable cause to indict? How are there no citations? Was there a grand jury? There was a grand jury. There was. And we'll get into it more. I think it's, as I kind of started with, it's hinky. It's hinky. They go through, they have all of these different pieces, and, they don't necessarily have to have a specific citation, but on the other hand, you still need to have some way to authenticate what you're saying, even though it's just their overview at this point, and they don't. So it's suspicious. It's suspicious. Yeah, it's suspicious. Here we go. So, the beginnings of the anarchists Defend the Atlanta Forest movement. Now, again, this is going to bother me the whole time because we have a group of people that are referred to in the indictment as the accused. And the accused is not being referred to in the support for the RICO charge. All right, so we're going to call them the accused, and they are being charged with the violation of the Racketeering Act. The accused are being charged. The Defend the Atlanta Forest is not being charged. Okay, so they're saying the Defend the Atlanta Forest is the endeavor, but nowhere in here They said they did unlawfully conspire to endeavor to conduct and participate in an enterprise, but no one's referring to this enterprise here as the Defend the Atlanta Forest. So I'm just kind of waiting. I'm waiting to see if this somehow all comes together, because so far it's not. All right, it was formed in 2020 following the high-profile homicide of this person in Minneapolis. In the weeks following his homicide, the Atlanta resident, this person, was homicided by Atlanta police in a Wendy's parking lot after he violently concussed a police officer, stole the officer's taser, pointed the taser at another officer while fleeing. Now we've got some specific details, don't we? This is pretty specifically stated, as opposed to sections A through C. We didn't really have specificity. We had a little bit here, but we've got some specifics here. While the Brooks shooting was justified, it caused anti-police violence tensions to boil over, and it further flamed political tensions surrounding policing. As a result, nationwide demonstrations and protests increased, including in the Atlanta area. Nearly all of the demonstrations centered around a message of anti-police violence that arose from a spate of high-profile nationwide police shootings. All right? While most demonstrations landed within constitutional protections, not all demonstrations were peaceful. Again, I think this is a good point. This is, I think a valid point that they're bringing up when we're talking about it at this point. But let's see if they can support it. I mean, one sentence out of all of this is not enough at this point. In the aftermath of Floyd's homicide and shortly after Brooks's homicide, a 24-hour autonomous zone was formed in the area surrounding the Wendy's where he was homicided. The Wendy's was burned to the ground by protesters. All right, we've got an act of arson. So that is absolutely a racketeering act, if that can be somehow connected in. And the zone began to be occupied individuals who were heavily armed. Within the area of the autonomous zone was a significant population of armed gang members. All right, so now wait a minute. So the gang members took over the Wendy's? It was justified homicide. Great question. So you can have a homicide. All you need for a homicide is the unaliving of a person. And so the act is the unaliving, the intent, whatever it may be, intentional or unintentional, that's fine. And that equals your homicide. But then you subtract out any justifications. So you still have the crime. It's just a justified crime. So you're not charged with it. That's how that kind of goes around. Aren't related to deforestation protests. Thank you. Yeah, I've got some concerns. Okay, we've got arson, and then they're saying it was taken up by a street gang. So now, was the arson burned down by the eco protesters? I mean, how is this related? I'm not sure. It's confusing. As part of this autonomous zone, busy public roads were blocked by these armed individuals and gang members. So are they saying the protesters worked with the gang members? Is that what they're saying? It's not related at all. Yeah, I'm confused. Effectively creating a checkpoint Charlie, in downtown Atlanta. On July 4th, the zone reached its pinnacle of violence. A MARTA bus had weapons drawn, and as it pulled up to the autonomous zone several hours later, when a couple drove up, all right, so we've got another set of witnesses, a shotgun was pointed at them and they were forced to turn around. While they were turning around, another weapon was pointed at them by another zone occupant. Who is the zone occupant then? Is it a gang member? Is it one of the accused? Is it a person involved in the deforestation project? I don't get it yet. We'll see. To ensure that they left the area. Minutes later, an innocent 8-year-old, would be homicided by an armed gang member. Again, sounds like a gang member issue. A car occupied by the 8-year-old and her mother bypassed the zone checkpoint, and the gang members filed on the car. All right, again, we see who's culpable, and then they homicided that. In the 23 days that the autonomous zone existed, the occupants promoted violence centered around an anti-police sentiment. Got it. So to me, it sounds like we've got gang violence in an area. That's what it sounds like. Yeah, protect the Forest Alliance. I'm not sure what their role is here. So let's keep going. Maybe they were working together. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They're literally just blaming adjacent crimes. Yeah, it kind of seems like it, but let's keep going. Militia violence taking place during the protests as well. Okay. Yeah, Angie, good point. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. But yet we've got 61 people charged. Were some of these people charged gang members? Yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's a good question. All right, here we go. Keep going. Meanwhile, anti-government anarchists in Atlanta recognized an opportunity to rally against law enforcement. All right, so now are they saying before this, they hadn't? So on July 5th, the night after the homiciding, and during evening demonstrations that protested police violence, mass demonstrators attacked the Georgia Department of Public Safety headquarters. Okay, so now I'm like, this to me seems like the first act that they're talking about regarding an attack. Now that would be illegal. If that happened, that would be illegal. Department of Public Safety headquarters houses the Georgia State Patrol. Again, that would be a bad act. Absolutely, it would be. The mass demonstrators echoed a familiar theme, an extreme anti-police message. So are they saying this theme is the same as the gang members? So, okay, DPS headquarters was vandalized using thrown rocks and other objects. Again, the vandalization is also illegal. So I can see that as well. The attack did not stop with vandalizing, escalated into a known anarchist hurling a Molotov cocktail through the window. Now we've got a third act. I see the third act, a particular person. So this person will need to be named later. The ensuing fire resulted in 2 employees suffering injuries and the building catches fire. So now we've got injuries and we've got arson. Okay, it's coming together, but it's coming together in 3 sentences. The demonstrations and protests eventually ended, but an undercurrent of threatening, violent, anti-police sentiment persisted with some individuals in the Atlanta area, including those that make up the Defend the Atlanta Forest, and it remains as one of the Defend the Atlanta Forest's core driving motives. So again, I'm just going to pause for a moment and try to sort through what's happening here. Let's try to put it together. So the whole purpose, let's see if we can get the purpose back. It's frustrating to read a legal document that's like this messy. It's fine if it's this messy. It's just frustrating. To try to make sense out of it when it's clearly messy. So let me see here. So the whole enterprise, they're saying here, in order to prove this RICO, the whole reason is to have this mutual common goal. The common goal is to attempt to prevent the training center from being built. That's what they're saying is the goal of the enterprise, right? So that's the goal. And then we come into here and they're saying now that we've got this building that they messed with because their goal was to just create anarchy. So is their goal to stop the compound from being built, or is their goal to just create anarchy? See, I'm not seeing those tied together. Motion to dismiss for clarity. Yeah, I mean, they're saying, I get it. There's definitely we got some problems. We got some crime going on here. I get that. I totally get that. But the common goal of a RICO, they're supposed to have one common goal or, one common criminal enterprise. And here they're saying it's this anti-anarchistic, anti-police actions involving the public safety headquarters, but yet this is part of them trying to prevent the building of Cop City. Where's the Columbo? question. I'm totally baffled. Okay, so this is the indictment of the 61 people out of Atlanta, Georgia, that have been indicted by a grand jury on a RICO charge out of Georgia for, bad behavior, absolutely criminal behavior. I get it, that occurred around July 4th. Vague number of anarchistic groups joined a gang to attack the police building and occupy the forest. Oh my goodness. Genius. That's genius. Pure genius. I'm really trying to figure this out. Okay. All right. I don't know. This is crazy. I'm just like, this is crazy. All right. Let's see. I'm sure it's going to start making sense. It's going to start making sense, right? All right. All right. The Atlanta Police Public Safety Training Center. Okay, so this is also known, AKA, as Cop City. Let's make sure we take notes so we don't get the names confused, since the names aren't consistent. In April of 2021, hold on. Now we're going back to April. Atlanta mayor announced the lease of 381 acres from the Atlanta Police Foundation for the purpose of building a police training facility. Okay, got it. On September 7th, the council approved the lease by a 10-4 vote during an open meeting after a public discussion. All right, the land will be used for the development of an 85-acre training facility that would be built on part of the grounds. The purpose of the police training site is to better train police to deal with Atlanta's increase in violence, while also training law enforcement in de-escalation techniques. That avoid unnecessary violence. Sure. When completed, the site will be the largest, most advanced police training site in the United States. Okay, so that is an explanation of what they're trying to build. Got it. Shadowbox Studio and the land swap. In addition to the land leased by the city of Atlanta, DeKalb County and Shadowbox Studio own two other portions of the land at or near the forest. The studios is a film studio that serves as a location where films are created and produced. Shadowbox owns a successful studio across Constitution Road, just south of the forest. It's occupied by the Defend the Atlanta Forest. How is it occupied? I missed that as well. Are they camping there? Though it's not remained untouched by Defend the Atlanta Forest. How are they occupied? Indeed, multiple instances of vandalism and arson by Defend the Atlanta Forest members have occurred against the studios. Yeah, I mean, I guess this would be a bad act here, I guess. The studio also owns undeveloped land inside and outside the forest at issue. The location outside of the forest is adjacent to the studio to the south, with public plans to develop the land into an expansion of the studios. Though Defend the Atlanta Forest members have not occupied the forest south of the studios, they have used outrage. They've used outrage at the proposed development to recruit individuals to join them. The studios used to open approximately 50 acres that straddled this road and was broken into 3 smaller parcels. This was located within the area of the forest occupied by them. I'm still not understanding. Do we know what this means, that they've occupied the forest? That they're just hanging out there? Are they just living in tents in the forest? They're Pokemon, Amy. They are Pokemon. What is happening? I don't get it. I mean, are they used outright? All right, so they're defending it. All right, so they were camping. All right, got it. So there's a group of people, these members, camping in the forest. They're camping in protest. Okay, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Tales from DC. Maybe Pokemon is the Enterprise. Oh my goodness. They were allegedly staying there like people who climb the trees when they're cut. Okay, I got it. So the people, I'm struggling again. So these people are camped out in the forest. How did they get to the Wendy's? I mean, that part, I'm struggling with that part too, because it seems they were really upset. They went to the area with the Wendy's that was held by gang members, And there was like a public safety place there that they vandalized. So they left the forest and they gotta eat you. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. This is really taking an unexpected turn. They heard the ruckus. Sir, this is a Wendy's. Was the Wendy's anywhere close? Yeah. The Wendy's was a year prior. Oh my gosh. What? Why is Wendy's involved then? Hold on. All right. So the reason I bring it up is because this is some actual significant criminal acts going on here in this July 5th of 2020. But now we're in the forest in 2021. So are they saying that they're the same people? They went to the Wendy's, then they went to the forest. Senior Citizens Discount Day. Oh my gosh, this indictment. I know, right? And I mean, I've read a lot of indictments. Frodo's Journey. Oh my gosh. This is serious. These 61 defendants have been charged with a RICO violation. And I can't figure out where they're at. They've not even been mentioned yet in the indictment. They've only been mentioned in the first paragraph on the second page. Except for the gangs have been mentioned. And now this group is camping in the forest. I'm trying to figure it out. All right. Oh my goodness. They aren't the same people, but they're motivated by the anti-police sentiment. Okay. But there's like a lot of anti-police sentiment at that time. I'm not sure how it's connected. 5-year minimum gets them out of the... Oh, I know. I need a drawing too, B. I need a drawing. I do as well. They're throwing everything at the wall. I don't think they're even throwing anything at the wall. I don't even see a wall. I'm waiting for the wall. Tree huggers. Yeah. Could this be our Congress people? Oh my goodness. I need a drink too, Jay. A drink of water for anyone listening. There's no connection. Oh my gosh. All right. Here we go. Let's keep going. Let's figure out what's happening to the movie studio. All right. At the same time, they owned 40 acres of land in a single location with the southeast point at the intersection here. In February of 2021, by agreement, Shadowbox and DeKalb County, the parties conducted a land swap where the titles to the land was exchanged, so Shadowbox took possession of the 40 acres of land, and DeKalb County took possessions of 50 acres previously owned by Shadowbox. Because this somehow has to do with the Wendy's that's on fire. I just am like, what is going on? I'm really struggling here. I'm struggling. I'm the struggle bus, okay? The purpose was so Shadowbox could expand its studio and DeKalb County could have better location to establish Michelle Obama Park for enjoyment of the public at large. Okay, given that both Shadowbox Studio and DeKalb County swapped the land in an effort to promote development, Defend the Atlanta Forest expressed further outrage. Oh no, further outrage, again, not the accused, but this group, as stated by group via social media. Quote, "We will not let our forests be destroyed for the convenience of politicians, Hollywood, and the police. No cop city, no Hollywood dystopia, only forest." All right, now that I can believe. I can believe that happened. While Defend the Atlanta Forest has since expressed outrage at this development, the group did not begin its occupation of the land or campaign of property destruction and violence until the announcement of the Atlanta Public Safety Training Center, which I believe is also known as Cop City. Once the announcement of the training center was announced, Once the announcement of the training center was announced, Defend the Atlanta Forest used the outrage stemming from the homicide and shooting homicide to promote its anti-police, anti-government, and anti-development views. With this movement beginning to gain traction among anti-police fractions, Defend the Atlanta Forest quickly expanded its public sentiments to include objections to the studios and development of the park. This way, the group could recruit more members by expanding its message from a simple anti-police message to an anti-government message, recruiting anti-police, anti-government, and anti-development people from around the country resulted in Defend the Atlanta Forest Group that exists today to conduct acts of violence, intimidation, and property destruction. Okay, so I caramba, what the actual flip is happening here? What is happening when they hit the word count? What? Okay. So here's what I'm picturing. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm crazy. It's fine. I won't be offended. There's a group of tree huggers in the forest. And they're in tents and they're camping out and they're trying to save their woods. And they feel like, boy, this would be great if we had more people. So let's recruit people that are mad at police to join us in our tents in the forest to keep Hollywood from turning us into a dystopia. Is that about right? I mean, come on. I'm sorry. I meant no offense by tree huggers. I see nothing wrong with tree huggers. I don't see anything wrong with that. Okay, Angie. They're Pokemon. Oh, did AI write this? They might have. All right, because again, I still don't know who the accused are. Because right now we're still dealing with this group of tent dwellers. Let's call them the tent. Were they in tents? I don't have any proof that there's tents. They just said they were in the forest. I mean, how were they in the forest? They gotta catch them all. I'm a tree hugger. I don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, are they tent dwellers? Are they tree dwellers? Tent people? Tree people? Why are we charging elves with a RICO? Why? Why is this happening? I don't get it. Oh my goodness. Three poor people. They're keyboard elves. Gosh, I can't. This is serious. This is a serious charge. Oh my gosh. Oh, the elves. What is happening here? All right. I'm trying to figure it out. All right. I have an open mind. Open mind. Open mind. It is. I'm like, okay, I see it. I see there's some bad acts. Let's charge. But now I'm like, I don't think the elves did the bad acts. I think the bad acts were done by other people. Oh my gosh. All right. Elves I mean, if they had weapons and chains, lock up the elves. I'm all about it. But it's not coming together for me yet. All right. This is happening because they're facing the wrongful death suit from the protester. Okay. All right. Well, let's get into it then. I didn't know. I mean, if they took down one of their own, that's bad business. That's bad business. We don't want that. They need to be charged. Absolutely. But I'm just like, where are they? What's happening? All right. We're only at G. Let's keep going. Let's see. I mean, there's no immunity for Ewoks or elves. What is happening? I can't. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. Okay. Here we go. The cops took out the protester. Really? Who shot a cop? All right. So there's like we're missing a whole piece here. There's a whole piece missing. Okay. All right. Let's get into it. I do not mean any offense at all. I just can't. Just like, what is happening? All right. Okay. Let's get into it. Let's be serious. If there's crime, we got to find the crime. We got to look into this. Make sure everybody's held accountable. That's what we do. Defend the Atlanta Forest overview. All right, here we go. This will explain it. Defend the Atlanta Forest is an unofficial Atlanta-based organization that frames itself as a broad, decentralized, autonomous movement that uses advocacy to direct action to stop the forest from being bulldozed in favor of police and sold out to Hollywood. Okay. Defend the Atlanta Forest does not recruit from a single location, nor do all Defend the Atlanta Forest members have a history of working together as a group in a single location. Okay. Oh, let's get into it. Yeah, if there was a homicide involved, we got to get into it. We got to figure out what's happening here. Nevertheless, the group shares a unified opposition to the construction of the Atlanta Department Training Facility, which again, I believe they're referring to as Cop City. Construction companies associated with the project and companies associated with construction properties in and around the surrounding forest. As the group has grown and recruited, it has evolved into a broader anti-government, anti-police, anti-corporate extremist organization. Anytime we have extremism, it's never good. Defend the Atlanta Forest is made up of three primary ideologies. The first ideology is anti-law enforcement ideology that attempts to push a narrative that all police are violent, militant individuals that frequently use excessive force and violence against innocent citizens. That is ridiculous. That's crazy. The goal of this ideology is the elimination of police forces in their entirety. All right, that's extremism. We don't want extremism. The second ideology is protection of the environment at all costs. Now, of course, at all costs is never the correct answer. The police had the homicide, so they're trying to create a smokescreen with the indictment. Really? Okay, wow, this is really getting terrible. This is awful. This ideology promotes the belief that environment has the same rights as humans, and therefore violence is acceptable to defend the environment. Now, by environment, do you mean like your home? Because in Texas, you can defend your home. I mean, not the castle doctrine, but your property. They have a law that says that in Texas. So that, I mean, but we're not in Texas, we're in Georgia, but I'm just saying. Yeah, what's the quote for that? Great question. Okay, home isn't a treehouse. Well, I mean, if it's your home. All right. The Defend the Atlanta Forest organization has acknowledged that they embrace this extremist ideology. Now, again, extremist ideology, nothing good comes from extremism. This is demonstrated by the group's justification of shooting a Georgia state trooper. Okay, I got you now. Tortuguita trying to... What? Okay. Now we're getting into serious business here. We've got loss of life. That's unacceptable. Trying to kill or trying to homicide a cop in defense of the forest. This third ideology is an anarchist ideology. So, hold on. They're saying first, our ideology here, anti-law enforcement. Second, protection of the environment at all costs. And at all costs, they're using the example of a person dying trying to homicide a cop in defense of the forest. And the third is the anarchist ideology, protecting the forest and is not extremist. Yeah, I'm struggling here. As a result of all three ideologies joining forces, the group has been able to quickly recruit nationwide. So this doesn't make sense. Is this an example of the second piece that they're saying? So the second one is, at all costs, the Defend organization has acknowledged that they embrace this extremist ideology demonstrated by the group's justification of shooting a Georgia state trooper. Okay, I don't know. It's not coming together for me. I'm struggling. As a result, right, the group has been able to quickly recruit nationwide support from out-of-state extremists that have traveled to Georgia. They can't prove anyone intended homicide. Yeah, what are they quoting? That's a great question. Again, we do not know what they're quoting. We do not know. Other cops shot the cop. Yeah, okay. Well, that makes a difference, doesn't it? The state trooper had a vest on, was shot in the abdomen, fired in the back, killed. Really? They were in a tent. Oh my gosh. 57 times? Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Yeah, whoever wrote this should be fired. I agree. I agree completely. Many of these extremists embrace violence and anarchy, and they use the forest as a guise for their violent agenda. That's a bold statement. Why would they use the forest? This is so confusing. I agree. All right. The United States Department of Homeland Security has classified the individuals alleged as extremists. In a bulletin posting, they concluded that alleged extremists in Georgia have cited anarchist violent extremism, animal rights, environmental violent extremism, and anti-law enforcement sentiment to justify criminal activity in opposition to a planned public safety training facility in Atlanta. Criminal acts have included an alleged this and assaulting, targeting law enforcement, and property damage targeting the facility. There are no citations in this at all. It reads like an editorial in the newspaper. Yeah, it does. It does. Construction companies, financial institutions for their perceived involvement with the planned facility. Again, with a quote with no source. We've no source for that. Defend the Atlanta Forest frequently uses symbols associated with anarchist movements to include, but not limited to, the capital letter A, surrounded by a circle, and a raised clenched fist. Whoa, these kinds of flags and symbols associated with anti-fascist movements, graffiti, which includes these symbols, as well as Defend the Atlanta Forest, Stop Cop City. This phrase, which Ice-T is familiar with, all cops are. Oh, that's another phrase. We don't want to say that out loud. And then this one, the numerical equivalent of this phrase here. These are all prevalent in the area surrounding Entrenchment Creek Park. They didn't want the forest cleared for the police facility. Well, see, that isn't really coming across in this indictment, is it? They used AI to write the indictment. It's really confusing the way it's written. I agree. Fun fact. Means really? I did not know that. Okay, so additional graffiti, which encourages violence against law enforcement, is visible throughout the Atlanta area and has appeared in other large cities across the country. So are they saying that these sayings, these very, very popular, famous sayings all over the place, are because of this group of people? Right. So they're saying this is because of this group of people. These phrases written up, are they using those as the RICO acts? So this graffiti are included in the acts that make this a RICO charge. Oh my gosh. So that's how they're connecting it outside of Georgia. Yeah. It's a lot. He's vindicated. Oh my goodness. All right. We're not even into the acts yet, but I don't know that all right, we'll keep going. This is really getting out of control. I've never seen anything like this, and I've read a lot of indictments, like a lot. Yes, I think you're right, Shan. I think you're right. Weak sauce. Yeah, it's a lot. Already has 7 campuses. No reason for more. Well, it looks like this really is specific to a forest. I mean, this is a little bit different than, we're not talking about people, gluing their hands to paintings either, or putting mashed potatoes on a Rembrandt. This is not what this is. It sounds like a terrible, terrible situation. Yeah. All right, here we go. Keep moving. We're going to keep moving. At some point, it's all going to click together, right? Because it's got to, because there was a grand jury involved. This has to do with the Wendy's. Yeah, that's a great question. Some were chained to a bulldozer, right, which is pretty typical. And a trespass. That would be a trespass. You could get charged with that, which is a simple misdemeanor. I'm so confused about the timeline. I am too. All right. Historical anarchist and activist movements in the United States have included the creation of autonomous zones, like the one that the gang was in charge of at the Wendy's. What? In which participants do not recognize the lawful authority of local, state, or federal government. Such examples include the 2020 movements in Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, the later known as Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, which received a high volume of national and international media attention. The second example is the previous mentioned autonomous zone in Atlanta during the George Floyd demonstrations. A sign reading, "You are now leaving the USA," is frequently featured in social media posts and blogs about defending. This is all conjecture. This is all conjecture. This is not supported by anything here. I don't know how you can get away with putting this into a grand jury indictment. I don't get it. It looks like, second, third year undergrad wrote this for like a paper for a class. It's difficult. It's difficult to read this. It doesn't seem like legal writing at all to me. It's very difficult. All right, so here we go. More conjecture, more suppositions. Defend the Atlanta Forest maintains a strong social media presence on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and various blogs, and has also worked with external entities to produce videos and podcast interviews. Okay. I mean, maybe this could be put in as somehow trying to, tie the group of people together. They're trying to equate J6 with, yeah, I think so. Don't we get really upset? Many of these videos or recordings are available to open source platforms with a discussion of militant actors, direct action, tactics, strategy, structures for anti-authority movements. Again, that sounds like a militia, that I get it. In one video, a black-clad defend of the Atlanta Forest participant refers to historical insurgents or violent guerrilla movements such as this as a reference point. Again, where's your support for that? Where's your support for any of this? The black-clad defend the Atlanta Forest participant states that the fate of this revolutionary in all places, it's partially determined by Damascus and Apollo. What? And I think that with the current movement here, it's clear to me that the fate of the South River will be determined in Midtown Atlanta and be determined in Chicago and New York and in Los Angeles and Seattle. Now, this sounds like political speech to me. Are we inciting violence? Is that what's happening here? Because we can't incite violence. We can't ask, hundreds of thousands of people to show up in a place and then incite violence. Is that what's happening here? They've laid out zero facts. All of this is inflammatory. I agree, Daisy. It's frustrating. It's hard to read. It's in quotations. Exactly. Where's your cite? Where's your citation? Or any kind of authority. You don't use a grand jury indictment to argue your case. Like in a brief, we have parts of our brief where we're making our arguments. We're saying, this is where we're coming from. Here's our argument. Here's our persuasive argument. We do that in our briefs. We do that in our motions. But in a grand jury indictment, we don't need to be persuasive in a grand jury indictment. We need to set out probable cause and have a grand jury come in and decide if there is probable cause or not. Police aren't allowed to enter the zone. Right. Are the grand jurors also AI? I don't know. I am absolutely flabbergasted. Yes, and an opening statement, exactly, which is not an appropriate place for a persuasive argument in a grand jury indictment. All right, so the same right goes on in detail the role of sabotage and militant actors, the movement referencing United States Department of Defense theory on the role of defense and offense, specifically that the role of defense is open to the space for offense. And we have a direct quote, again, not cited anywhere. Defenders, of course, especially in an urban context, not only in an urban context, but a wooded urban context, will always have an inherent advantage, especially if they perceive their role as defensive and they're able to engage really on their own terms. They're just trying to open space for offense. From where does this quote come? Is it from the person writing this? I have no idea. This isn't even basic English 101 is not even involved here. This participant describes the foundation as a consumer purchasing construction. And is this from a video? Are they referring to a video? I mean, what? they're drawing from The Art of War by Sun Tzu is an attack of the strategy. So we're quoting Sun Tzu now in our grand jury indictment. I'm sorry, I need a moment. I'm so frustrated. This is horrendous. I feel like you're grading a paper. I do. I'm just like, okay, -10. Like this is incorrect citation. You didn't indent. Like that's exactly how I feel. Oh my gosh. Is this real? Is it? I can't. I just am. I'm just, oh my gosh. All right. So, okay. This is a get a drink of water. I need to settle myself down just a minute. I feel like I need to write somebody a letter. Like who do I need to write a letter? I need somebody tell me. I'm writing a letter. All right, I got the red pen out. Okay. There's no citation here. We need a citation. And what source is this? Is this a video? I don't even know. We don't even know. Again, who is this? Project component, structural engineering, I mean, there's no source. We don't know that either. Art of War, how is this relevant? This would be a relevant situation. Like they're citing Art of War, okay. Mentions this, a subcontractor, reference, again, there's no citation. We have quotes again, there's no citation here as well. Ultimately did the right thing, moved their money elsewhere because it's all, again, who says this? Who's talking? The participant, again, is this out of a video? Is this a real life person? Is this a witness? Is this a statement that was made to police? Who made this statement? Because these companies have various contracts, make money elsewhere. And now we've got another quote. So who is this quote by? Here's the citation. Who is this again? Is this just inflammatory with no purpose? Okay, also describes, and we don't know who this person is, again, describes previous engagement with the canvassing campaign, describes this, natural consequences, emergent, intranscend. Okay, I get it. So they're upset about something, they're expressing frustration. The participant further states the movement intends to win. What does this mean? This is exactly how I would grade a paper. What is this? This is not correct at all. The struggle extends beyond defending, and struggle plays a larger role, climate crisis, and so on. This is, again, irrelevant. To prevent domination. This is inflammatory language. Is that really necessary? Going to have to get our hands dirty. Who said this? We're going to have to do this ourselves. Who is ourselves? Again, social media platforms. Defend the Atlanta Forest regularly promotes Week of Action events and later claims responsibility or vandalism or arson committing during these specific time frames. And I would say cite your sources here. The websites used to claim activity are often foreign hosted. By who? Who are the foreigners hosted? The Defend the Atlanta Forest participants often promote online security measures which disguise the user's true identity. And where's your evidence to support your statement? You don't have any, such as the use of virtual private networks, VPN. Again, where's your support for that? We don't have any. All right, so this is getting a low grade right here. I'm looking at a C-. C-. Oh my goodness. All right. Here we go. The group is supported by three individuals, but we've got 61 people charged. It's supported by 3 individuals that live in Atlanta. The 3 individuals use this as their primary residence. All 3 work to support this situation. Cop City, yes. The first individuals named this person, a community activist who controls and operates, which is a nonprofit registered under the same tax code as all of our churches are registered, and serves as partial financial backing. self-identifies as the chief financial officer, also lives here, assists in running the network. The third resident, the secretary treasurer, identifies itself as providing support. Again, we don't have a citation here. These members facilitate finances, and where's your evidence to show that? There's no evidence of that whatsoever. And forested area near, so we don't even have a specific location. Network for Strong Communities portrays itself as providing community support. All right, so this is what I would normally do. I would say this is wrong, this is wrong, nope, 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 nope. And at this point, you don't have enough support for me to even finish reading this. So let's get into the facts. Let's get into the overt acts that they're citing. Because this is all nope, nope. Forest defenders, nope. Inconsistent. Scouts now, nope, we don't have that. Pamphlets and writing, nothing wrong with that. Scenes, nope. That's more grading. Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. There's nothing here. Publish their own zines. We've already talked about zines, okay? We don't have any explanation for that. We have no citation again. Civilian joins. What's their act when they join? We don't have that. We don't have an intent. Here, violent anarchist recruits. Again, we've got no support whatsoever. All right, so part 2. Let's talk about the acts. Let's talk. RICO acts have booklets. I don't know anything. I don't know. There are no racketeering acts that have booklets that you put in the forest with the elves. Okay. Oh, I've lost it. All right. So, sorry, not sorry. Let's look at the acts. Maybe this will somehow shed some light, because this is ridiculous. $249. You two, as the Attorney General, can figure out what a RICO is. All right. So, okay, part 1 was rubbish. Part 2, now we need to look at the acts. Let's see. Yeah, this isn't looking good. This student is not looking good. This is not good. All right. Here we go. Let's get into the act. So, the defendants, which again, the defendants is the incorrect name. They're supposed to be called the accused, not the defendants. So if you're not going to say accused, why would you add it? Committed overt acts to affect the object of the conspiracy. The object of the conspiracy, do we all remember what that was? Which was to stop construction. That was the object. That was the whole point of the conspiracy, was to stop the construction, which includes acts of racketeering, so any kind of fraud or illegal acts. That's what we're looking for here. All right? Here we go. Jordan and the AG. The object is not even illegal. I know, it's bad. All right. Well, I guess trespassing technically is illegal. 5 installments, $49.80. All right, let's go through. We're starting all the way back. So on or about July 5th, this person and this person threw objects and a Molotov cocktail at the Georgia State Patrol headquarters. We are back at the Wendy's. Okay, I can't. So the Wendy's that was taken over by the gang. So this person is not even charged. It's just an act. It's one of the acts included. I can't. Oh my gosh. All right. We got to keep track of the dates. So the Molotov cocktail that was thrown on July 5th of 2020, before the group was organized to defend the forest, before it was officially organized. All right. So these two are charged with RICO because they are trying to stop the construction of the police law enforcement center. That's what they're trying to do. They threw the Molotov cocktail because ultimately they were trying to stop the construction. Right. What's this have to do with anything? Yeah, it's a great question. All right. Whew. Okay. Got it. Again, every single one of these acts needs to be traced back to this group stopping the construction using illegal acts. It's absolutely illegal to toss a Molotov cocktail. Absolutely. In order to stop the construction. Okay. I don't think that was the intent there. I don't think that was the intent. We've got October 28th. They transferred $100. $100. Big money. An unindicted co-conspirator whose identity is known to the grand jury for ammunition. This was an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy. Somebody spent $100 on ammunition in October 28th of 2020 in order to stop the construction. Okay, all right, that's the second act. November 1st, we've got this person transferred $80 for a radio communication device, which is transferring $80 a racketeering activity, because we're supposed to have a racketeering activity, which means a fraudulent illegal act. Transferring $80 to buy a radio communication device. Is that a racketeering act? Okay. So we're just going to start doing it. We transferred $100 in order to buy ammunition. Is buying ammunition? Okay. Who knows? We don't know what the ammunition is going to be used for. $80 to buy the device. We don't know what the device is going to be used for. We'll see. We'll see. We've got November 6th of 2020, $40 for another radio communication device and camp fuel. It must have been discounted because this was $80 and they only got a device. But this one was camp fuel too. All right. Racketeering activity right there. May 20th. All right. Published a post on scenesnoblog.org linking to a post, the anarchist news that threatens property damage if construction is not halted. Okay, so we have a threat. There's a threat. How do they know what the money was going for? Yeah, it's a great question. So we have a potential threat. Let's look at the language. Okay. Threatens property damage. So property may be damaged if construction goes forward. That could be. May 20th of 2021. So we're already in 2021 already. Property damage, again, further damage. So we've got another threat of property damage if construction goes forward. All right, so unindicted published a post, again, calling for a week of action. I'm not sure. Is calling for a week of action? Is the action illegal acts? Are they asking for illegal actions? If not, if they're calling for everyone to wear like green on Monday and pink on Wednesday, I mean, is that a week of action for racketeering purposes? I don't know. Sure anymore. I've lost my mind. I have lost my mind. Yes, it's the next year. So we have the Molotov cocktail. We have money for ammunition, money for radio, money for campfire fuel. And then a year later, we're asking for a week of action. That's what's happening here. I can't. I just don't even. All right. A lot was going on in June, apparently. Claiming responsibility for property damage to 3 excavators. Okay. That's important. This was damage to property. That's illegal. If you damage property, you need to pay for that damage. So this would be seen as criminal mischief is what we would charge this as. So we've got criminal mischief. Is criminal mischief racketeering? Could be. We've got another article advocating for more property damage. So let's damage more property. Here's another threat. June was busy. We've got another published post. Let's see. Encouraging further property damage. All right, so more property damage. It's looking like a lot of the acts are asking for them to damage the construction property. Now, that would be in furtherance of the goal. This was, right. Yeah, we don't have any sites here. Along with unindicted, publish a post linking websites with a home address for property violence. That's not cool. That is not cool. You don't put someone's home address out there and advocate for property violence. That is also bad. That's no good. Okay, so that's not good. I can see that. $80 for ammunition. Okay, this was a different $80. So this was a year later, because that was 2020. So a year later, we've got more ammunition. Another $80 worth of ammunition. How can they indict crimes committed before the announcement of Cop City? Yeah, that's a really good question. I think what they're doing is they're going through and they're saying, in general, they're anti-police. And so because of that, all of this was in preparation for the potential building of it, or because of the park. But see, all of these ads that are things that they're saying they're going to damage the park. I mean, that's not a law enforcement facility. That's a park. What are you talking about? I'm just like, this is crazy. All right. Here we go. Knowingly threats against, again, a published post. So it looks like we've got another post. Let's just write down post. We've got a post saying, we're going to mess up your property. We're threatening your property. Here's another post. Again, we're posting criminal trespass, which is, usually a simple misdemeanor, which you pay a fine on. Here's $100. What did we spend the $100 on? To an unindicted. So transferred $100 to a co-conspirator whose identity is known for delegation expenses? What's that? What's delegation expenses? So they spent $100, and that's been maybe because the park is Michelle Obama named. Could be. True. Yeah, and she's a authority figure. Suppression is, yeah. Oh my gosh. All right, so $100 for some kind of delegation. We have another post here promoting property destruction. Again, is this, I don't know. I just don't know. Another week of action is another post. So basically every single post that they put up regarding hurting the property or some kind of action, a call to action, each one of those they've put in as an overt act in furtherance. Okay, I guess I can see that. So they're saying flood the phones of the construction company. So there's another post. $298. So we've got $300 for monitoring equipment. I mean, this is pretty significant. It's a different battalions on the, is it? Okay. 3 of those ones charged directly accused of actions. Okay. So we've got a $300 reimbursement. We've got another post. Threats against the construction officials with the intent to cause and induce construction officials to withhold records. All right. We've got, what else do we have? We've got another post with threats against construction. We have another post. Threats. So lots of threatening posts. So that's a lot. I mean, that's not good. You shouldn't, be threatening people online. That's not good. Here's another post. Threats again. Now we have 6121 reimbursements for forest kitchen materials. $27.62 for forest tools. $52.22 for kitchen food, because you got to eat while you're conspiring. That's important. Although I didn't see any McDonald's charges on the other RICO indictment, but you know, that's fine. $52.22 for food. So they're charging them each time they bought food. Okay. $256. Tools, ropes, and tarps. Now, this could be used for, you know, some kind of harming of something. So I can see this one, I would say, is a maybe. I would say that's a maybe. $256. That's another one. Wait, is this the same one? No, they charge different people. It's charged one person, two people, three people with this. And then another person, same date, same amount of money. But this is the reimbursement. So they transferred money and this person was reimbursed. But this is the same transaction. And then reimbursement here for forest tools, which we already had on the previous page. So each one of those, each reimbursement is charged as an overt act, in each withdrawal and accepting of the money. Oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. All right. Here's another post. Sounds like camping gear. Yeah, it does. It does. Another overt act. All right. Here's another post. Affirmatively approach construction workers. Looks like they're messing around with the construction workers. That's no good. Here's another post. I'm going to keep going through here. I'm going to kick this up a notch, which is usually what I do when I'm grading a paper and I'm like, this is so awful, I'm not going to be able to make it through. So we're going to kick this up a notch. We got a post. We got another post. Again, another post. So the overt acts are publishing on this blog site, this one blog site. $200 reimbursement. This was for a cell phone. This was a cell phone that was lost. We have a $12.52 reimbursement for kitchen materials. So the act in furtherance of the conspiracy for the RICO is for $12.52. All right. And then this person used the $12.52. So we've got Act 40 and 41. Want to make protesting and camping illegal. It seems like it. $68 kitchen materials. Kitchen materials again, $68. So they're charging twice on those. We've got 93 camping supplies, 93 again camping supplies. So reimbursement camping supplies. So the person who took the money out and the person that received the money, each one is being charged as a bad act. These are racketeering acts, fraudulent acts of spending $93.04 for camping supplies is your racketeering act. Okay? Because that's somehow a fraudulent act, which is what racketeering means. Racketeering means illegal act. That's what racketeering means. Got outdoor supplies. Okay, outdoor supplies, $68 for food. So I guess getting food is a racketeering act. Some more supplies. This is just absolutely heartbreaking. Absolutely heartbreaking what they are doing here. This is so disturbing. We're getting supplies. We're getting building materials. We're getting food. We're getting reimbursed for kitchen materials. These are not racketeering incidences. This is not it at all. That racketeering involves some kind of fraud, some kind of illegal activity. Buying groceries is not an illegal activity. Pulling out data from a computer that you do not have access to, that's a racketeering activity. Drafting false documents, that is also a racketeering activity. You know, there's potential for some of these things for them to use to harm the equipment that they're talking about. So I can see that. I can see a couple of things, but these bad acts where they're talking about materials and supplies, I mean, communication infrastructure, I mean, because they lost a cell phone in the forest. Yeah, this is someone who's not, okay, here we go. Worming supplies. You gotta, warming supplies. All right, we went past that. Now let's get to May 12th. We vandalized an office building, okay, using threats with the intent to cause and induce to withhold records. Okay, so this, I think, vandalizing, if you're vandalizing a building, that's a racketeering act because it's a criminal act to vandalize. So this one I think is okay. Molotov cocktails. We're back in 2022. I mean, this is recent. So we've got this person, this person, this person, this person did throw Molotov cocktails at police officers. This is also a bad act. So this would be an assault. This is a legitimate criminal act here. Did attempt to occupy the forest, thereby attempting to prevent police presence. This would be a trespass. Trespass is also a criminal act. All right, so we got three. That's all right. 1408. For a lock on a trailer. Reimbursement for a lock on a trailer that stored forest defender items in the forest. $14.08 for a lock to put on a trailer. Yeah, I'm here. Yeah. Clearly racketeering. Clearly. All right, we're almost somewhere. Rain tarps. We got to have that. Rain tarps. We got to have, what else do we have? A shovel, rope, gloves, tarps and tents. Here, tarps and tents. $15.18. What'd they do for that? What'd they spend that on? For goods, for living in the forest. All right. Okay, did attempt to occupy the forest. We've got trespass. Here again, this is another criminal act, so I think that's okay. Camera installations, so they could avoid detection. So there was camera installations. So let's look at this. See, this guy who's charged with part of the RICO, First Amendment right to protest, yeah. While employed with Flock, did provide locations of future Flock camera installations so that the Defend the Atlanta Force members could avoid detection. So this person provided information on the location of future camera installations. Not on the camera installations that had happened already, but future ones. He is now part of the RICO conspiracy. That's it. Yeah. All right, here we go. Climbing training. Okay. All right. So let me again, I'm circling these amounts. We're doing camping materials. We're doing food, tents and tarps. Again, I'm trying to kind of get to the end here because these overt acts that are RICO acts. Climbing training sessions. All right. So, and this is a big one. This 2 counts for learning how to climb trees. Down here, more climbing training. I'm not sure if that's a racketeering act or not. Now we've got 5 unindicted. Did vandalize. Okay, now we've got vandalizing. They spray painted a church. That is illegal. That is an illegal act to spray paint a church. Okay, there was tuition reimbursed. That's also included. Reimbursements here, or water hose to sustain occupation in the forest. All right, 1191 needs its own act so that this person gets charged with a RICO for receiving $11.91 for glue. All right. Let me just make sure. let me just make sure I read this correctly. This woman right here has been charged with a RICO charge, 5 years minimum in prison for $11.91 for glue. Okay, hold on. That's not it. She was also $39.98 for bins. Oh my goodness gracious. Oh my goodness gracious. Oh my goodness gracious. And this one, we've got $1,000. We've got $1,000 for reimbursement from the network of strong communities whose identity is known. For reimbursement from what? For what? For what? What's that reimbursement for? Right? What? Oh, this is for printed documents. But what's this one for? We don't even know what for a generator. We have a generator. I am absolutely flabbergasted. I'm okay. This woman drove to the residence where 3 unindicted co-conspirators vandalized vehicles. All right, you can't vandalize vehicles. That is a crime. Bulk goods. Right. Here we go. We got to go quick now. I got to go quick. We got to get through this. Here we go. Let me just make sure I understand what this $19.42 was for. Harm reduction supplies. Okay. Here we go. More of this, more of this, more of this. A metal scraper. All right. Grip tape. Got to have that. Rust reformer for the trailer. They attempted to occupy the forest. Okay, so this would be a trespass. So now we've got a crime here. All right. This would also be a trespass. Here. Carried a backpack with fireworks into the forest. Now, are fireworks illegal? I'm not sure. Wearing a ghillie suit in an attempt to avoid police detection. So if you wear this suit, you are now committing an overt act for a RICO. Threw rocks, a bottle, and shot fireworks at firefighters. That's not good. That could be a potential assault. Okay, criminal act. Damaged a vehicle. We have vandalism here. Occupied a tree house. Refused to come down. This could be a trespass. Oh my God. Oh my gosh. Issued a call to action on Instagram to deliver a physical response to prevent her arrest. I don't even know what that is. A wooden board with metal spikes. That's not good. You cannot do a booby trap. That is not okay. It looks like there were some, cut a rope in an attempt to cause an arborist to fall. This person's a little suspect. Okay, I can see that. Evaded police. Evaded capture. All right. Did approach with a rifle. Okay, this is not good. You can't do that either. Published a post. We got another post. So we do have, I guess, a few things in here. Let's see. Restroom support. That's part of it. Here's another post. Here's another post. Oh my goodness. $38. Here's a post. $400. Oh my goodness. For a manager, I don't even know anymore. I've lost all my faith in humanity at this point. I've just lost it. I've lost it. Okay, there's a tool. $70. Here we go. Oh, their post. Occupied a tree house, so this is a trespass. Refused police commands to exit the tree house. Took photos. I'm looking for any racketeering activities. That's what I'm looking for, right? Occupying. Camouflage. Occupied a treehouse. Occupied the forest. Possessed a phone. Right. Oh. Occupied the forest. Signed his name with these 4 letters. This is a post. Here's another post. 5-year-old comes out of the treehouse. Yeah, they'd be charged with a RICO. Yeah, it looks like it. If you're in Georgia, looks like you're going to get charged with a RICO. This is another post. Okay, arson. Arson, that's big. All right, arson. This is 3 years after the Wendy's incident. 2.5 years. Just so we know. Gas can camping. This is not cool. That's also not cool. I don't know. This one's just riding in a truck. I'm not sure. There was a lighter and an accelerant. I think that's questionable. We've got arson involved. Possessed a hammer and tried to break in. So this would be vandalism, potentially burglary. That would be bad. This would be vandalism. Okay. Claiming responsibility for property damage to a Bank of America. This is also vandalism, criminal mischief. Let's see. Here's a post. Here's another post. All right, we're almost done. Here's a post. Here's another post. Okay, another post. 465 for tools. We've got 665 for tools. We've got 400 for this project manager. Ooh, $2,000. What's that for? To defend the Atlanta Forest merchandise. Okay, so they bought merch. There's merch. That's your racketeering activity right there, buying the merch. Yep, there's some crimes. Absolutely, there's some crimes here. I see crimes. Do I see a RICO? I don't know. Criminal trespass. That's a crime. We got crimes. Yep. Okay, now we organized a mob. This is March 5th. We can't organize a mob. Mob is bad. Each individual person joined a mob designed to overwhelm the police. Organized a mob. These are all bad. We can't do that. Organized a mob. It looks like they're kind of mad about this mob situation. Join a mob. Mobbing. Mob. Okay. So let's just make sure we take a minute on this person, because he joined and organized the mob and succeeded in overwhelming the police force, thereby aiding and abetting in the offense of arson and domestic terrorism in an attempt to occupy the forest, prevent the building of the center. This right here is the only thing I have read that has supported the RICO. Act number 194. Right here. I see it. This person. That's one person. Let's see who else we have. This person. Okay. Arson. And he organized it. This one could potentially also be. So now we have 2 people. We don't have 61 people, but I can see where they're coming from. Organized a mob again. So each one of them, they are charging with domestic terrorism and arson. I see how that's coming together now. Now we're getting into a different situation when they're charging at this level. Each individual person who was part of the mob is now being charged with the domestic terrorism because they were part of this mob. They don't give any examples. They don't explain what they were doing. It looks like they were involved in an incident on March 5th. all part of a mob. They committed the acts. Yep. Yep. It's getting suspicious. It's getting suspicious. But being part of a mob is one act, right? One mob is one act. I'm not trying to justify anything. I'm just trying to say, how do we have a RICO? If we have one mob and we have one act, then we have arson. Okay, everyone, if one person does it, everyone's involved. So that could be our second act. And there are more than two people. So it looks like this incident on March 5th, if that's all they're relying on, you've got a group of people committing the same offense. This is not a RICO situation, is what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying there wasn't criminal activity and that people don't need to be charged. What I'm saying is, if the ultimate goal was to prevent the construction of the law enforcement agency and the RICO acts were to gather this mob together and all of the pieces they needed for the mob, including the instruments for arson, for the domestic terrorism, all of that could be put together into a potential RICO. That makes sense. But that is 200 acts that were included that were unnecessary. No conspiracy necessary. Right. Did they just choose the word mob instead of a group of a crowd? It's a good question to make it sound bad. They're arresting anyone, anybody that protests Cop City. Can't a judge downgrade the charges? Absolutely. Absolutely they could. Well, defense counsel can just come in as well and say, you know, if it looks like this incident on March 5th is a bad situation, multiple people involved, multiple bad acts involved, but one incident like this is not a RICO case. They were all involved in the act. Doesn't matter which part they played in it. True, they were all involved in it. But you have to have this criminal enterprise with multiple overt racketeering acts in order to further your common goal. So a mob situation is not charged as a RICO, or else all of our, big mob acts would be RICO. We didn't charge, there were no federal RICO charges in January 6th, and we had a mob situation. Everybody was individually charged with the role that they played. You could definitely be charged with conspiracy. Absolutely, you could charge with conspiracy. But for a RICO, we've got multiple racketeering acts, 2 or more people with a criminal enterprise in place. That's not what we have here, in my humble opinion. I think we definitely have some conspiracy issues. We've got some bad acts. We've got some criminal situations. Absolutely. January 6th was not a RICO. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying here. Right. Right. Yeah, I don't think we have that. Could it be because of how it's outlined for Georgia? Georgia's RICO statute is much broader than the federal statute. That's true. But the RICO statute is not meant for a mob scene kind of violence. It's meant for this kind of premeditated, pre-coordinated type situation. I mean, I suppose, if we talk it through, because again, I'm open to anything here, but if we talk it through, maybe they could say this preparation for this event. In this event, the goal was to prevent the agency from being created. So this March 5th event was the goal in order to further their ultimate plan. And they've got the racketeering activities. But it's a stretch. It's a stretch. RICO charges on people who bought food. Right. Yeah, it's a stretch. How to suppress future dissent. Well, yeah. Did the ham sandwich write this? I absolutely believe that there are criminal acts here. Absolutely. I believe there's criminal conduct involved, criminal charges involved. Absolutely. I have no doubt about that whatsoever. I'm not sure all 61 people are involved in a RICO situation because of a mob. I'm not sure. Okay, Georgia said they were going to go after protesters. Right. It seems like a lot. It seems like a lot. All right. So March 5th, we've got March 5th on the table. All right. Bad acts, no doubt about it. Criminal activity, no doubt about it. Did it exceed protesting? If there was in fact arson and domestic terrorism involved, then yes. Let's take a minute and check out what that actually means. So let's look and see. I printed out the code section because another thing that drives me crazy is in this indictment, the code sections aren't listed, right? So in the other indictment, anytime we had a violation of the law, she listed the code section out. They didn't do that here, but I looked it up myself. And it says here, any felony violation of or attempt to commit a felony violation of the laws of the state, which as part of a single unlawful act or a series of unlawful acts which are interrelated by distinguishing characteristics, is intended to cause serious bodily harm, this and any individual or group of individuals, or disable, destroy critical infrastructure, which I think that could be argued, a state or government facility or a public transportation system, when such a disability or destruction results in major economic loss and is intended to intimidate the civilian population of the state, alter, change, or coerce the policy of the government of the state or its political subdivisions by intimidation or coercion, or affect the conduct of government of the state or any of its political subdivisions by use of destructive devices and these things. So it's possible that this could be charged. At best, some of these charges are misdemeanors. Right. So we don't have enough information to say whether or not we're at a felony level. I mean, the level of, if you spray paint somebody's truck, all right, let's just use that as an example, and you get charged with criminal mischief or vandalism, you're charged based off of the amount of damage that's done. So if it's a really nice truck or a really expensive piece of equipment, you could be charged with, it could be a felony based off of how much it costs to repair it. So that's possible. This is the Georgia Code section 1611-220, which defines what they're claiming occurred here. We all know what arson is, right? The unlawful burning of something. But for each state, we'll have our own definition of what this means. So what they're saying here is there was some kind of property destroyed. Power play to discourage future violent protest. I think that's a good example. Now, as we'll get into this a little bit further here, let me kind of get us past these quote-unquote bad acts. So, all right, so let's keep this in mind. We've got the domestic terrorism, arson. We've got bad acts. Is it a RICO? I'm not sure. But we've got March 5th, so that's an important date. What happened next? We've got March 16th. We've got reimbursement again for this server. We've got research electronically map directions to a trooper's house. All right, so map directions. We've got April 29th. They traveled to the neighborhood. All right. Now, these are the last of the acts, okay? April 29th, distributed flyers. April 29th, possessed a Faraday bag, mask, goggles, wig, and a change of clothing. Possessed a document named a security handbook that describes methods for committing violence. I don't know. I just don't know about this one. Maybe a background and recruitment slip for the police department at a hiring table so she could gather location. I don't know. That's suspect too. So those are our bad acts, all right? So our bad acts, we've got a mob, a bad situation on March. Let's make sure we get the date correct. March 5th. It looks like to me we had a bad day on March 5th. Bad things happen, criminal acts happen. Anybody involved in it was charged. And then they extrapolated forward and backwards to try to hook other acts into the situation. Are the protest racketeer influenced and corrupt organization? That's what they're trying to claim, is because they have this anarchistic ideology. So the common intent was to disrupt the law enforcement creation. That's what they're claiming. And all of these overt acts come together for this ultimate goal. But honestly, it looks like we had a a mob situation with a whole bunch of bad acts. Now, one date involving a bunch of criminal activities, one incident like that, again, is not necessarily going to fall under a RICO. Does a RICO have to be planned? Yes, that's part of the conspiracy. You have to get together and make a plan to achieve your ultimate goal with the people. Yeah, with the people. I think they do have to be planned. Yes, you have to make a plan. That's the key piece to it. That's the plan itself. Even if you're not successful, you're charged because of the plan. Yeah. So we definitely have a lot of that. But okay, so we've got RICO. I think RICO's questionable, honestly. I think we've got some bad acts. I'm not sure if every single person would be involved in that, but we've got some bad acts. It's questionable. What happened here in Seattle and other cities were thrown into this indictment. Yes, they were. Seemed too disorganized and individualized. I agree. I'm not sure the arson was planned. Seems like a reactionary event. Well, and I'm wondering because they're, if they were to buy supplies to make the Molotov cocktails, then they would have included that. But they didn't. They didn't say, this money was spent. And they really had an itemized list of what the money was spent on. But the materials to make a Molotov was not there. Yeah. All right. So, all right. So count one. I don't know. But let's talk about the other counts. First of all, again, I will note that none of the counts have the code section listed, which is unheard of in an indictment. If you're charging someone with a crime, like this crime right here, you would put the code section in here. Weird. It's weird. So, count 2. This is just charging these people, not all 61 that have been charged under RICO. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 people charged here with the mob situation planning. Okay, that's a far cry from 61. So, parties in the crime of this offense, on or about the 21st day of January, did attempt to commit the offense of arson in the first degree, a felony with the intent to destroy, disable critical infrastructure, and such destruction, disabling would result in major economic loss. So they have police department vehicles. This isn't even the March mob incident. Let me just take a moment. This is a different date. This isn't even the March bad acts where they were claiming, actually putting this term into the acts were only included in the March charges. So now this doesn't make any sense at all to me, but fine, whatever. So they messed up some vehicles. Because they messed up some vehicles, now they're charged with this, and it's on a different date than the mob. Why wouldn't they list the code? I have no idea. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, this was the date. Okay, she was on that was the date of the homicide. Oh my gosh. All right, again, here we go. The same date, this January 21st date, we've got arson here. So we've got the night of rage did possess the means of fire and explosive by possessing an accelerant and a lighter. Did attempt to break into the tower, contrary to the laws. Okay, fine. We have 1. We have 2, we have 3, we have 4, we have 5 people here. Again, the same people that were involved here. So the same 5 people were involved in this act and in the arson. Again, not the March date. So just keeping that clear. It really does. Ugh. Now, let's look at this money laundering. Now we have a code section. See, this is how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to have a code section. So we've got money laundering. Let's just look at the code section. Money laundering. Right. You heard me. I said money laundering. Here we go. Criminal penalties imposed by the code, except as provided by whoever willfully violates any provision of this article, shall be guilty of a misdemeanor, not a felony, a misdemeanor, committed in furtherance of the commission of any violation of Georgia law, committed as a pattern of illegal activity involving transactions exceeding $100,000 in a 12-month period shall be guilty of a felony. So we're only dealing with misdemeanors situations. Money involved in the currency transaction represent the proceeds from some form of unlawful activity. Or down here, we've got nothing in subsection C of this code, nor subsection C of this other code will supersede this provision. So what they're setting out here is any money involved in any illegal activities can be charged as money laundering. All right, so we got that definition. Let's look and see what the charges are. Yeah, just to get it to trial. I agree, Ryan. I agree. This is just awful. It's awful. This is awful. All right, let's look and see. Count 4, individually and with parties with the offense of money laundering. Here on January 10th, with the intent to promote carrying out specified unlawful activity, criminal trespass, while knowing that the monies involved in said currency transaction represented an unlawful activity of the charity fraud, did conduct said currency transaction transferring $61.21 from the Network for Strong Communities to Brooke Countermanche for forest kitchen materials, contrary to the laws of this state. So, all right, so money laundering, they're charging money laundering for $61 for kitchen materials. All right, count 5. So these 3 people are charged with money laundering for $61.21 for kitchen materials. All right, now we've got these people here, and on the 10th of January, for a criminal trespass, transferring $27.62 for forest tools. Money laundering, count 5, $27.62. 7. We have a transaction of $52.22 for kitchen food. So they are charged with money laundering for $52 for kitchen food. All right, now we've got $256 for tools, rope, tarps. All right, camping supplies. Money laundering charge $27.62 for forest tools. Another money laundering, $12.52. These 3 people have been charged with money laundering $12.52 for forest kitchen materials. That's count. That's count. My Roman numerals are off. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This isn't how you write Roman numeral 9. Wait a minute. Wait, this is 8. I've just lost my pen. This is 11. That's 11. This is this is 9. Oh my goodness. That's 11. Which is fine. But it's $12.52 for kitchen materials, and it's its own charge. All right. Money laundering. Let's go down here. $68 kitchen materials. Money laundering, $93. Camping supplies. All right, $99 camping supplies. $68 kitchen materials. $148 kitchen and outdoor supplies. $61.98 food. How is this treating defendants with dignity? How is that? I'm just curious. $48.06 supplies. $107 supplies. Money laundering. Okay, $38.66. 1, 2, 3 people have been charged with money laundering. $38.66 for kitchen materials. I'm completely at a loss. I'm completely at a loss. I can't even. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15 money laundering charges for campground food and supplies. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the total is. I don't know what the total is. I don't know what the total is. We've got this domestic charge for January 21st, not even for the March situation that they actually use this term in for the bad acts. Arson, also January 21st. The majority of these bad acts are posts on media, so communication, okay. The only thing that I can see is where we've got destruction of property, messing with police vehicles, vandalizing different vehicles, trespassing, vandalism, Molotov cocktail. I get it. There's charges, but I have no idea what this is. Sounds like the worst and slowest money laundering anyone could do for $12. Yeah, arson. Yeah, the only thing that I saw that went up in flames was the Department of Public Safety next to the Wendy's during the 2020 riots. That's the only thing I saw. Who is this against? This is against all of these people, these 61 people. And one of them bought glue for $12. And she is now in the RICO, and $38 for bins. She is now looking at 5 years in prison. But it doesn't matter how small your role is if you're involved in a RICO, which is how it's supposed to be. But the key is, do we have a RICO? I'm not sure. Posting on media going after call to actions. Yeah, it's pretty bad. How many unindicted co-conspirators? There were several. They didn't give a specific answer in their, college paper of the introduction, which I would grade C- because I'm feeling generous. That would be the highest grade I would give them. This is atrocious, and I say that confidently, knowing that I'm not allowed to make my profession look terrible because that would be unethical. I say that confidently as a critical eye towards the interest of justice and my duty as a sworn person to the Constitution. Yeah, C-. Yeah. Very distressing. Very distressing. I had honestly thought, you know what? Let's take a look at it. Let's look at the language. Let's look at these overt acts. Let's look and see what happened. There must be something in here that would have presented to a grand jury to give them probable cause for a RICO. But you show a grand jury over 200 overt acts with, the language in it. I could barely make it through, and I'm trying. But put that in front of a grand jury. Are they going to go through line by line when we're talking about $15 for, a bag of potatoes and some campground fuel? I don't know. Yeah, he did it to himself. You're right. It makes no sense. How can anyone read that and thought it was acceptable? I know. I feel like nobody read it. Did the grand jury already vote? Yes. This is a filed indictment. This is an indictment that has been filed August 29th. All of these people, how many of them can afford attorneys? How many of them understand what the language is that's in this indictment? How many of them are just getting notice that they need to show up, be booked into jail. Are they going to be able to make bail? I don't know. I mean, the woman that bought the glue is like, I'm in jail now. I can't afford an attorney. What am I going to do? I'm going to plead this out and hope to serve 2.5 to 5 years in prison. What are the next steps for the indictment? Do we know how many grand juries voted to indict? We don't. No, we don't. None of that information is available in here. We don't even have the code sections. The code sections for the domestic terrorism and the arson, code sections aren't even listed in the indictment. The means and methods that's required for the RICO, not listed. All we have are explanations of what they believe anarchism is. It'd be terrifying. I do feel bad for them. I do. I feel bad for anyone in a situation where they do not understand what's going on. I do not have sympathy for people who commit crimes. I have sympathy for people where the system isn't working properly. That's where my sympathy is. Actually, it was not a grand jury. It's signed by a 4-person. I looked into that also. Oh my gosh. It's very distressing. Grand jury bailiff. Ooh, we don't have that. Wait a minute. Why isn't that signed? I don't know. Maybe they didn't have a bailiff, I guess. We have the attorney general. Here's the foreman's signature. The fact that people could go to prison for buying glue and one may not for trying to overthrow. Yeah, I know. And I'm not saying, if you're part of a conspiracy for a mob, for destruction of property, for, all of these things, that's all. I get it. I get it. There are laws in place for a reason. I get it. But to just put 61 people into an indictment for a RICO case for buying food to live in a forest to protest, this is prosecutorial discretion. That's what this is. Right. It's, yeah. And, I look at these other indictments and I go through and I'm like, you know what? We've got rules. The grand jury's got to have probable cause. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking to myself, they had to have had probable cause in order to indict. And I'm looking at this information and I am just completely baffled. I am absolutely baffled. Just to make fun of the other RICO case, I think it's an example of what an actual RICO case is versus what everyone's been claiming the other RICO case was, which was bologna sandwiches. That case is legit. This case, I've got bologna sandwich vibes. Georgia say you have to list the codes and the crimes charged. I don't know if they say that, but every indictment that I know of has always listed the code sections because they're saying you violated this section of the code. Here, the charge like domestic terrorism without even putting the code section in, that's a pretty huge violation of the law. And to not include the code section, the Georgia code section, that's unacceptable. Yeah, and I get it. They're like, well, we stayed in the forest in order to, go forward with our plan to prevent the place from being built. Okay, so that's the ultimate goal, right? We've got to have this kind of criminal enterprise. The enterprise was to prevent the building of the enforcement academy. All right, so you need to have racketeering activities in order to do that. So illegal, fraudulent acts in order to gain a benefit. What was the benefit to not have the academy built? The benefit was to save the forest? Was that the benefit? So now it's confusing me even more. What were they trying to gain? Because that's what the criminal enterprise is all about. Typically, it's money, it's power, some kind of retention of power, authority. What was the goal here? What was the benefit? What was the purpose of the criminal enterprise? How are you supposed to know what to defend? Yeah, I don't know. The community doesn't want Cop City. I get it. Yeah, I can understand without a code. There should be code sections. If you're going to charge someone with terrorism, you should be using a code section. You think it's suspicious the grand jury names were deliberately withheld? I do. I think it's suspicious. I mean, my understanding was Georgia law, you need to list your grand jurors out. They're not listed here. Okay. Maybe they learned something. They wanted to kind of protect them. Okay. But no, I don't understand why. I don't understand why. Environmentalism is RICO? That's a great question, right? So my criminal enterprise is to protect the forest, to prevent the construction. Now, I'm not just making it up. This is actually what it says in here, that the criminal enterprise, the enterprise was the attempt to prevent the training center from being built. That was the enterprise listed out here. That's what they said it was. That was the goal. What's the case number? Right here. Case number. Right there. Clerk number set out here. We've got it initialed by the clerk that filed it here. And we've got ET listed as opposed to CA, which was on the other one. Refused to comment on why they withheld the names too. Really? Okay. The gloves does not fit. You must convict. Oh no. I don't think there was actually a grand jury. Oh, I'm getting the vibe. I'm getting that vibe from it. I mean, it says foreman, but we didn't have a bailiff sign. I don't know what's going on in Georgia, man. I don't know. I don't know what's happening here. I mean, we have this signature for a foreman, and then we've got the attorney general. If this was a written indictment, right, we'd have a trial information, so it'd be set out, and we've got the attorney general. But gosh, even with the trial information, you have to have some kind of witness statements involved. You have to have some actual legitimate support. This is written like it's a grand jury indictment. Yeah, I don't think you can. I don't think you can charge a RICO case without a grand jury in Georgia. It's suspicious. It's suspicious. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying it's suspicious. I'm at a loss. I'm at a loss. I really am. I really am. Protecting the forest was not extreme enough. They tied the anti-cop group to them. I can see that. Funny Willis's letter asking him to focus on items F through O. Yeah. Yeah, we enjoyed that. Seriously. Yeah, a little girl. Yeah, I'm confused too. I'm confused. Yes, ACLU has made a statement saying that this is atrocious. They said that the indictment was bad. Talk with the attorneys for today. Yeah, I don't have an update on that. I really spent most of my time trying to figure out this indictment here. This is awful. There's like no actual evidence in the indictment, just a post, not the text of the post. I agree. Just what they figured the intent of the post was. Can it be tossed out? It's possible. They mentioned a child. Yes. They did. They mentioned a child that was harmed during the Wendy's takeover. Would this count as egregious? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Right. Police fire during the encampment cleaning. Yes. Yes, that's true. Is the AG a Republican? Yes. Did the jury see the posts? I don't know. I don't know. Bringing in the death of that. Yeah, it was inflammatory. Yes. And it should have consequences. Of course, there needs to be accountability and consequences. That was a situation in 2020 involving a gang at a Wendy's. You know, there's a lot of different moving parts here. They gave us the whole Wendy's storyline, but I don't think it's connected. I agree, Amy. I agree. They're just saying that was kind of like the triggering the triggering reason why this group got together? Right, right. Summed up the post, didn't quote. Yeah, I agree. They just said, well, they said, come to this place, or let's go. If you don't do something, we're going to go and harm a vehicle. I mean, just like two broad lines. Yeah, I think you're right. It is disappointing. I'm surprised. I'm honestly, legitimately surprised. I really had thought there would be something in here to support 61 people getting charged in this indictment. I don't see it. I don't see the RICO. I see criminal acts. I see criminal charges. I don't see a RICO. Is it possible a single lawyer could defend this and get it tossed for it being an obvious retaliation? It's possible. The real question is, do these defendants understand the extent of what's going on here? Or do they just see indictment paperwork coming at them and not knowing what their rights are? Right, exactly, VC. How does that make sense? My license in South Dakota? No, I'm not. Sorry about that. Scare tactics, I agree. One Atlanta prosecutor withdrew from the case because she believed what Carr was doing was unethical. Really? I can see why. How can we help educate them? I don't know. I'm not sure where they're at in the process. I'm not sure, this was the 29th. We're at the 7th now. I don't know if they've turned themselves in at this point. I mean, we've got mugshots, we've got bond, we've got all those things that need to come in. We've got arraignments that need to be set up. This would go like any other case. So I have no idea. And if they can't afford attorneys, they would all have to get appointed attorneys in the area. Like, what attorney is available to come in as a public defender, essentially? I'm sure none of them have money. If they're getting charged $12 for glue and bins, I highly doubt they've got money to, pay $5,000 retainer. Yeah, big expensive lawyers. Yeah. All I can say is never ever go pro se. I agree, Ava. I agree. I know that the ACLU has eyes on it. I know that people have eyes on it. I'm just shocked. I'm shocked that it made it to this point. With this, I really thought, even at the point where we were looking at the March mob incident, I'm like, okay, they're going to use this then as their jumping off point, but it wasn't even charged in the further pieces. And money laundering for food, no. I'm shocked. Sole oversight. Right. Oh, okay. Whew. I'm so lost. I'm lost too, Jay. I'm lost. I'm completely lost. I'm lost and disturbed. It's a retribution document. Yeah, I think we stepped into something really ugly here. Yeah, I think we stepped into something ugly. But it's deal withable. It's deal withable. I think the powers that be understand something's going on. What kind of glue, though? Yeah. Yeah. Aren't you glad you did the fun? I am. You're trying to interfere with the big case. Yeah, I really am not sure what's going to go on. What's happening here? Can you read the money laundering statute again? Sure, absolutely. I keep thinking, like, I'm going to need to make some phone calls tomorrow. I got to make some phone calls. I need to talk to some people here. Because this doesn't seem right at all. All right, here we go. Except as provided in subsection B of this code, whoever willfully violates any provision of this article shall be guilty of a misdemeanor. So what I've got are the criminal penalties imposed by the other code sections, not superseded. So let's take a step back. Records of reports of currency transactions. So we've got currency transactions that are in furtherance of, criminal activities. Whoever willfully violates any provision of this article where the violation is committed in furtherance of the commission of any other violation of Georgia law. So this is a roundabout way of saying, this was an overt act in order to take the criminal enterprise to the next level. So I guess they're saying because of the RICO violation, or perhaps maybe because they were trespassing because they were in the forest and they weren't supposed to be in the forest, or committed as part of a pattern of illegal activity involving transactions exceeding $100,000. That can't be it. That can't be it. It must be one. And they haven't cited the code in the indictment, so I don't know. All a cover-up of worst crimes. Yeah, commitment in furtherance of the commission of any other violation of Georgia law. Yeah, I'm guessing they're using subsection B1. I'm going to just guess. It's not cited. Because we don't have $100,000 here. Even with the generator, the $2,000 generator, we just don't have it. Whoever, knowing that the money involved in a currency transaction represents the proceeds of some form of unlawful activity. I don't think we had any proceeds. I think we just had, money that was raised or donated that was used. So I don't think C is applicable. So I really think it's this first piece under subsection B. Willfully violates any provision of this article who committed in furtherance of the commission of another violation. So that's what I'm guessing. It was a public park. Yeah. Isn't the forest where they were on public land, not private? It had been leased. It had been purchased by the city and then leased. So it was city property that had been leased. Yeah, you got it. Possible precedent for organized protest groups like Occupy. Yeah, it's a good question. Isn't using excessive force through the justice system? It seems like it. Was it posted land? That I don't know. Those are great questions, though. We had, along with the Brandenburg case, that's a case that established using language to incite unlawful activity is not protected, right, by the First Amendment. So there's another case that goes hand in hand, and that's an NAACP case in like a hardware store, I think. I can't remember the exact name of the case, but we had another person who was kind of saying, we got to take back stuff, and that's another First Amendment situation. But when I'm thinking of both of those First Amendment cases, we don't even have a situation where any of these people are standing up using their First Amendment rights. The only thing I can think of are these pamphlets that they're talking about, where they're distributing speech. So that's the only First Amendment implication I can think of that's involved in this. Other than that, we're on public land. It looks like some of them were failing to comply with orders to leave. There was some vandalism involved. There were some, a Molotov cocktail, but it doesn't seem like there was any arson actually that was done. But the conspiracy itself would be enough. Activists, most of whom don't live in Georgia. Yeah, not even in town square or anything. Yeah, they count the blog posts as numbers of overt acts. Yes, that's a good point. Oh, that's a really good point. So these blog posts, that's a great point. What would we categorize these blog posts as? So by posting on the blog and trying to say, go and commit a crime, can you do that? Would that language be protected? Like, if you don't listen to us, we're going to go and destroy your property. So that would be threatening behavior. But do we have any acts that would show those threats would come to fruition? That's another thing too. Case was big angry deal because the police chief at the time. Oh, really? Interesting. Yeah, that's a really good point. That language that would be published on the blog posts would definitely be seen. What kind of language is it? Is it political speech? Are we just grandizing? We've had a lot of those kinds of questions. So let's just look. Did publish a post on scenes, claimed responsibility for an attack on the regional office, day of action, thereby using threats against construction officials with the intent to cause or induce the construction officials to withhold records, documents, and testimony in an official proceeding, an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy. That doesn't even make sense, first of all, but they're claiming an attack. So I think this was when they had the vehicle, but wait a minute, we're in Roseville, Minnesota? Hold on a minute, what? Okay, wait, so these three people, along with the unindicted co-conspirators, unknown to the grand jury, did publish a post claiming responsibility for an attack on a regional office in Roseville, Minnesota. Okay. I don't even know. Police chief because the chief wouldn't fire the officer. Ooh. To go to court together. Yeah, I have no idea. I think they're branching out with using this blog situation as multiple posts. So, I mean, we do have destruction of 2 bulldozers. Now, were 2 bulldozers fully destroyed? And this was November of 2021. So, I don't know. I mean, it's just, this is a mess. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry. Sometimes I forget I'm mic'd. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh, no. Alternative electors, I wish. No, this is a mess. This is a mess. Yeah, I was going to say, David, I was wondering, do you know how hard it is to fully destroy a bulldozer? My goodness. So, yeah, what are you talking about? We need a timeline. I agree. I have to leave it. Yeah, I agree. Okay, the bulldozers got burned. Maybe that's the arson then. But the arson was in 2021. I understood the elector's indictment. I agree. That one made sense. This one's like, what? This is a lot. This is outside of my realm of sanity. I don't get it. They're grasping at anything and everything in regards to straws that they can. Yeah. You know, and again, I'm not saying that there aren't criminal acts here. I'm just saying, you know, if you're going to go for it, you know, organize it. Charge them properly. Charge them, you know, who were the ones that were involved in the specific instances, you know? I mean, why are we pulling in Minnesota? I don't, you know, I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah, when was it announced? That's a good one. I have no doubt criminal offenses are at play here. This indictment is not, yeah, the judge is going to read it. The judge will read it. Arson had to be done to the bulldozers. Okay, yeah. Yeah, and that's absolutely chargeable. You should charge that. Destruction of property like that's totally inappropriate. You can't do that. That is an illegal act and the people should be charged. Absolutely agree. I'm just not sure 61 people in a RICO is the appropriate way. You've been busy lately. I know, I have been. Were they sniffing the glue? Oh, yeah, I wonder. Thomas, okay, staff attorney. Really? Southern Poverty Law Center. Oh my goodness. Whoa. Yeah, buying glue, money laundering. No, that wasn't money laundering. It's just an overt act. No way were they all anarchists. Well, and again, I mean, you can be an anarchist or not. You don't have to be an anarchist to destroy somebody's bulldozer, you know? I mean, it's like bulldozer destroyer choice. Anarchist, not anarchist, that's fine. But, you know. Yeah, I know, right? Oh my gosh. I dabble in the anarchy. I'm just a weekend anarchist, you know. I can quit anytime I want. It's fine. I'm going to bed. Yes. Oh, Tara. Well, thanks for coming by. Appreciate that. Yeah, like a radicalized movement. It's not working. It's not fitting into what they're trying to do. RICO is an out of the box fair game now. Yeah. You know, and it really diminishes the legitimacy of the other RICO cases, doesn't it? When you're looking at this, you're like, okay, RICO, let's do it. Let's bring it on. Let's break it apart. And it's like, wait a minute, what? How's that? Now that we're all becoming experts in RICO. That's it. Yes. Oh, my goodness gracious. All right. Well, I'm going to have to do some more digging into this, everybody. This isn't right. What happened? What's going on here? This is classic bologna sandwich land. That's where we're at. Really, April of 2021. Okay, so that would have been a year after the Wendy's incident. Yeah, for sure. It was fascinating. Oh yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so we'll all need to go and chew on this for a little while. I think we'll have to think and chew on this and figure it out. So at this point, what I will say is, so tomorrow I will be back on again, and what I'm thinking I'll probably spend most of the time on is I will update any records that we've got, any documents coming from the DC indictment, and then any of the updates from Georgia too. So I'll have the updates on that. But I also want to go through this petition filed in Colorado. We've got the first set of really legitimate, in my opinion, legitimate cases where they are saying that Donald Trump should not be on the Republican primary ticket. So they filed in Colorado, and they're asking the court for a decision on the 14th Amendment. So this is a really, I think, well-written petition. I don't know if it's going to be granted or not, but I think it's an excellent discussion point. So I will be going through this tomorrow. Yeah, Colorado. I mean, there was one in Florida. New Hampshire had some dabblings, but this one is the one where once I read through this, I thought this has got some teeth to it. So I will post what I find out. So I will be spending tomorrow. I will be back on again 6:00 Central Time. And we'll do an update on the Georgia case and the DC case. I'll do an update on those documents. And then I'll spend the remainder time going through this and explaining that 14th Amendment Section 3 piece to it, because I think Colorado's got some really good points. So I will be back to do that. I live in New Hampshire and they're pursuing it. Yes, I saw that. And I thought New Hampshire had a couple good points. And actually, in my opinion, New Hampshire had one of the strongest standings because it was actually a candidate who was running who had brought the issue up. So I thought it was really, really important. So it's fascinating. But yeah, I'll start at 6 going through an update on the documents, and then I'll kind of dive into this and really go through this. Yeah, that's what they're trying to do in Colorado. And I think this petition is really well written. It's got a lot of really interesting exhibits in it, different pieces of evidence to support their points. But it's really set out really nice. It's organized really well. Thank you so much for everything. You're the best. Oh, yes. Thank you to the mods, too. You're amazing, all of you. So, I'll be back on tomorrow. Yep, I will absolutely have this posted up on my Tube of You channel as soon as possible. Hopefully within 24 hours. I've got one more post that'll go up. Yesterday's live should go up later. So yes, good night, and thank you. No red ink on this document. No. Thank you everyone though for hanging out with me tonight. It was a lot of fun, very interesting. I will do a little bit more research and see what I can see about what's going on. So yes, absolutely. You have a great night, everybody. Thank you again for joining. I will be back tomorrow, and we will talk about the 14th Amendment, Section 3, that's been filed out of Colorado. So thanks again for coming, everyone. Have a fantastic night. Always good to see you. Take care.